The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? This is the Dirty Daddy, Chris Dickinson here, and you are listening to Keepin It Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith and Dan Coffin. On today's show, we'll review G1 Climax 31, nights 14 through 17, answer listener questions, and cover all latest news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts and columns over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/social suplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWWorld.com with features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and shared playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, Dan, how you guys doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
I had to point at Dan, give him his cue, let him know it's his turn to talk.
I wanted you to go first, man. He said both of us, so I was going to let you go and then me.
Yeah, it's me. It's DDT. I'm back. And I'm better than ever.
He's got a knack for making things better.
I actually didn't know the rest of those lyrics.
Dude, I had the Ruthless Aggression CD.
I had the CD where it was real artists like remixing all the Avid Sierra songs, and like Run DMC did like the DX song,
The King of Rock, who to be my hubby.
yeah. And like I think Wyclef Jean and other people were like on that album. I don't remember exactly who all was on it, but yeah, I had that album.
Yeah, that was a pretty dope album. But like I said, I got Dan here, friend of the show, longtime listener, questioner, part of the Largo Loop. Dan, it's good to have our resident olds on top, the ghoul aficionado of the Largo Loop here on Keeping It Strong Style. Every time we have new guests, Dan, we like to get a little of their NJPW history. So go ahead and tell our listeners, how did you start watching New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Well, I mean, I started from meeting you guys, right? So, like, I've been a wrestling fan since I was a little kid. You might say I was an FDSer for most of my life, and then I, saw the light when I got older. But no, growing up, I knew there was wrestling going on in Japan. That was like, I'd heard stories and like these apocryphal tales on the internet and stuff, but I never really watched it or knew a whole lot about it. I just heard names like AJ Styles or whatever. And then I don't know, it was about 2018 or so. I met Rich, or 2017 or so, somewhere in there. I met Rich at work, and I had a fake wrestling belt on my desk at the time, and we were on the same team, and he came over to ask me a question about something. He's like, "You like wrestling?" I was like,
"You are Mark?"
I was like, What are you, a belt mark? Yeah, I am. So yeah, we just started talking, and then there was one night where I went to an NXT show by myself, and Josh and Rich were there. That was the one that was the main event was Velveteen Dream versus Lars Sullivan.
Oh man, yeah.
One of the greatest NXT main events of all time.
Bro, I heckled the shit out of Lars Sullivan that night, like bad.
He deserved it.
That was like one of the worst heckling jobs I've ever done to any performer in history.
It was pretty rough. But then I met you there, and then like not long after that, Rich and I got tickets from work for the suite at the Amalie Arena to go watch like a SmackDown show. And you guys both were there. That's the first time I met Jeremy. Rich said, "Hey, these guys, they're really into Japan wrestling, this New Japan stuff." I was like, "What the hell is that?" I was like, I didn't know anything about New Japan World or anything. And it's funny, I was actually a KISS fan before I was a New Japan fan, because I was like, I met you guys and I thought you were cool and everything. I was like, let me just start listening to this and see what it's about. And then I'm hearing these names like Kanemaru and Hiroshi Tanahashi, and I'm like, what are they talking about? And so that's when I was like, well, maybe I should actually like start watching this. So that's when I started picking it up. I think I started watching whenever the Best of the Super Junior was with when Shingo was in it. When he long after he came in, that's when I came in.
Yeah, 2019.
So, right. So that's when I started watching, and that's probably a pretty good time to get into it, I would think.
Yeah.
That's how One Nation Radio is for me, hearing them talk about all the Joshis, but I'm not going to cross over,
Yeah.
I'm going to let Momo and Jungle and Nene and all, Kagetsu, they're going to just exist in my imagination. I don't know what they look like. I don't know what they wrestle like. They're just names I hear on One Nation Radio weekly.
Right. My time's at a premium now anyway. I got work and kids and pets and like I've got enough other wrestling to watch. I can't throw in Stardom on there too, unless it's like just something that like, they tell us we have to watch. Also, my wife.
I was saying, you're not allowed to watch it.
Right. My wife, not a fan of women's wrestling. It's funny, the other night, I told her you guys reached out to me to come on the show, and I was like, "Hey, honey, I'm going to talk about you a little bit on the show." She's like, "What are you going to talk about?" The only thing I know about wrestling is that I hate women's wrestling.
It's a woman after my own heart.
I was like, "You and Josh have a lot in common."
Listen, I will say this. Of all the people that came out for my birthday earlier this year, said they were ride or die, said they're going to roll with me, stay out, Dan and his wife were the 1-2 G's of the friend group that actually stayed through the whole entire bar crawl.
Like we're old married couple. When we go out, like if we're gonna go out, we go out because we don't go out very often, so we make it count, right?
Old's on top.
Old's on top. Unlike Jeremy, tapped out early. Did the job.
So the other thing about my wife with she what I was going to I told her like, no, I'm not going to talk about how you hate women's wrestling. I'm going to talk about the
just did.
She's not going to listen. I'm not going to get in trouble for this. But no, what I want to talk about is the New Japan Collection app. I'm like the last person in America that still does the New Japan Collection app, right? And I had her sign up for it when it first came out because I was like, hey, when you get 4 stars, I'm going to trade you and I'm going to get like all these great 4 stars. And the great thing was she would like download these cards and she'd be like, who's Hiroshi Moshi? And like trying to pronounce all these names. So I just like, here, read this one. And then there's one, she's like, who's Jay Lethal? I'm like, honey, that's Jay Lethal. That's like English. What are you...
Oh
my gosh.
She approved me telling those stories. She's not too worried about it.
So Dan, getting things back on track here. Since you have started watching, who's your favorite New Japan wrestler, and what would you say has been your favorite New Japan match?
Well, I mean, it goes back to Shingo. I came in at the same time that he came on, and I mean, I feel like he can have a great match with anybody. I just love watching him. He's great. And then my favorite match, Shingo mark, so it's got to be Shingo versus Will Ospreay at the Best of Super Junior final. Like that's what got me hooked. That's what got me hooked on watching New Japan Wrestling. Like I was like blown away by it, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna subscribe now. So
Got your money, kid.
Yup. got their hooks in me. So
That's awesome, man. Well, glad that we could.
Look, it's paying off. Look
Yeah.
where it's taking you to the big time.
to the top.
Yeah, glad we can play a role in your fandom, and yeah, glad to have you as a friend now and here on KISS. So that's been awesome, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Well, first thing we're going to talk about before we jump into G1 action, this past Friday on the Rampage buy-in, we had an awesome match. We had the American Dragon Bryan Danielson taking on Murder Grandpa Minoru Suzuki in just an awesome matchup. Did you guys get a chance to check this out?
I actually did watch this match.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, man, this match was freaking incredible. Like G1 caliber, never style, intensity with the slaps and the chops. Your catch cans. Original strong style with the submission work as well. Just an awesome matchup here, and I hope we get to see more of these guys, or more, of Danielson wrestling guys like Suzuki in the States, and eventually, hopefully, in Japan as well. So we had a question from Rambone Slam Pigs. Which of Minoru Suzuki's recent string of matches in the U.S. have been your favorite so far? Is there anyone you are dying to see him face before he heads back to Japan?
It's a good question. I can't claim to have seen every match that he's done during this time period, just because, my viewing's been a little more infrequent lately. But on top of that, he's been pretty much everywhere wrestling, a who's who. So it's, even if you are like trying to watch everything, it's going to be really hard to keep up and kind of consume all that content. That being said, this match has got to be, for my money, the best match that he's had so far. I will say I've heard good things about the Daniel Garcia match he had. I saw some clips that looked really great, but this kind of, a lot of the Suzuki matches I've seen recently have seemed sort of like paint by numbers, kind of the Suzuki on the road house show sort of like, playing the greatest hits type of thing. And here he seemed a little bit more motivated, bigger stage, bigger opponent. And, to me, I'm not as high on this match as everyone else is, I don't think. But at the same time, both guys seem really motivated. And I just thought it was a really enjoyable encounter, just top to bottom.
Yeah, I thought it was his best match since he's been over here. I haven't watched them all either. Like you said, that's a lot to keep up with. The guy's everywhere, and he's still not done. Like he's gonna be on, he's gonna be on Impact and like going some other places, and he might show up randomly some places we don't even know about yet. But yeah, the match against Daniel Bryan was very hard hitting. It was the Daniel Bryan that we all knew existed, but hasn't been able to really come out much. And it seemed, like you said, they seem to leave some on the table to where they could possibly have another match down the road and have another great one. I feel like, just like Josh said, I think with Suzuki, it's been kind of like, house show style. Like, he's coming out and just kind of gliding off his reputation in some of the matches. I mean, they're still fun, right? But not to that level. Like even the matches against like Moxley and stuff, they're slapping each other around and everything. But this was just like another level. Who I'd want to see him wrestle as the one that we haven't gotten to see him wrestle, and we were supposed to at Spring Break. I'd like to see him Orange Cassidy, right?
Yeah, that would be the match to make, and I'm hoping we're heading to Dynamite this weekend in Orlando. Yeah, I'm hoping TK, he's puffing his chest out right now. Hope he's feeling a little spicy. Give us a Suzuki and an OC this weekend.
Yeah, he needs to be a little more generous.
I'm like trying to like scour the internet. I'm like, who's on the indies that he hasn't fought, that he's not, like going to be wrestling, and I'm trying to like, see who it would be, and then
he's like been everywhere, or he's going to be everywhere. It's like impossible.
Right, and for me, I feel like the Bryan Danielson answer probably would have been my answer had it not just occurred.
Right.
I don't know, Jeremy. What are you thinking? You know what? I would really like for them to do a Jericho match.
Yeah, and Jericho did retweet somebody's tweet today about wrestling Suzuki, and he said, let's get it done. So, and Jericho has mentioned in the past about wanting to wrestle Suzuki. So, I mean, if Jericho will ever get back to Japan, or I mean, I guess they could do it here in the States. They could, do Jericho and Suzuki.
That does almost seem like a bigger match in Japan, though. You brought up a good point there, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's like, I don't know. I guess he could fight Nick Gage. I don't know.
Well, didn't he? Is that match happening? Already happened?
I thought they already had that. Or are they going to have it?
It must be happening.
I can't. Yeah, like you guys, I haven't seen many of his non AEW stuff. I did see the Jonathan Gresham match, and then it's still
okay.
Yeah, and it's still a New Japan canon. I saw the Fred Rosser match on Strong a couple weeks ago, and kind of like you were saying, Dan, with like the Fred Rosser match and the Jonathan Gresham match, it was almost kind of like the kind of get over with his aura, kind of paint by numbers. Yeah, I'll hit you with some forearms, make some goofy faces, and do some selling, and then hit you with a gotch, and then it's over. And then with the Bryan Danielson match, it's like, yeah, no, you're putting your working boots on tonight, kid. We're we're giving these folks a heck of a match. So yeah, the Bryan Danielson match would definitely be a favorite for me. I mean, I'm trying to think, the match that he had, the Rampage no holds barred match, that was a fun match. But again,
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it was fun, but again, it was not on the level of the Danielson match.
The thing I was gonna say is just that he's already lined up to wrestle so many of the top guys in the indies. When I sort of look at like what he's doing with Bloodsport and everything like that, Chris Dickinson and the Strong tapings, it's like it's kind of hard to find to really hone in on someone that he hasn't wrestled. I guess if I'm thinking more about it, one guy that I think could maybe be a natural fit for him and tell a really great story and get a lot of sympathy could potentially be Darby Allin.
Oh.
Yeah. I think if you did a Darby Suzuki match, you'd get a lot of a lot of mileage out of that match. So
let's see here. So the next part of his question, next question is from Dom Homie 101. He says, with Ospreay, Jay White, and Suzuki all in the States, why does it feel like Suzuki is doing more than both Ospreay and White?
It's not feels like, it is.
It is.
He's done way more than them.
Yeah, I mean,
like Ospreay's done a couple of things, but like Jay White, like what is he? He's done Impact a few shows and then Strong. Has he done anything else?
I don't think so.
Yeah, he's like just like hanging out at his house and then like flies out for Impact.
I mean, he's Jay White. What more has he got to do?
He sold out Madison Square Garden.
He sold out Madison Square Garden single-handedly. I don't know.
He needs to bring that Neverweight title to Orlando AEW this weekend. Have a match.
The fact of the matter just remains that Suzuki has done much more on this, like literally what could be described as a retirement tour, like sort of deal, even though they're not calling it that. And I don't know that it is that, but that's sort of like the kind of aura and presence that it like carries with it. And I don't know, those guys are doing something else. Who knows? I mean, Ospreay's worked a little bit in England and he's working MLW and that's cool. And, Jay White's done some Impact, but that's about it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and not only is Suzuki doing more, he's working in the hotter places. I mean, he's working in GCW, who they're red hot right now. He's working in AEW, which is obviously super red hot right now. Number one, promotion going right now. And so he's in the top places, getting the most buzz, and more gifts and more videos are going around with his matches than say a Will Ospreay Strong match or a Jay White Strong match.
Maybe there could be, and this might just be, I don't want to say this to like besmirch anybody because I don't think that's what it is, but like where Suzuki is in his career versus where Ospreay and Jay White are in their career, totally different things. Him coming to AEW, he comes in as sort of like this legend dad status sort of thing, similar to like Kojima and Nagata, where it's like he's probably going to win in most cases, but if he loses, he can handle the loss, and it really doesn't change his status in any way, one way or the other. Like just the mere fact that he's there, mixing up with some of these bigger names is, enough for him. And, it's kind of like a nice little side attraction for AEW. But with like Will Ospreay and Jay White, probably the two top gaijin talent in all of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Therefore, they're two of the top like Western talents for them. But when you kind of compare them to like, you know, your Codys and your Kennys and, you know, Mox and some of these other guys in AEW, the guys that they need to be locking it up with, there's no way they would go over those guys, you know, Jericho and them, not in AEW. And they can't necessarily come over and not interact with that kind of caliber of star. So it would maybe look bad booking wise to have them show up unless you really plan to have some sort of like talent trade where those guys get utilized in a favorable way, which I don't know that Tony Khan's looking to do that with those types of guys. So that might have something to do with it as well, you know?
Yeah, and also to follow up on the point you're making, you know, Suzuki being that legend dad status, you know, it's more of a kind of a hot ticket to see him live when he's here in the U.S., so it's more buzz in that way, too. This kind of reminds me back in, you know, 2017, we went to that Ring of Honor taping to see Kenny. At the time, it was like, well, you have to go because you never know when Kenny's going to be back in the States. Like, you have to watch, you know, go watch Kenny live. You have to go meet him right now. And I think it's kind of the same thing with Suzuki. Like, you don't know when Suzuki's going to be back in the U.S. Like, he's doing this crazy tour right now, but like you said, Josh, this could be a retirement tour. Maybe he never comes back. So I think a lot of people are excited about the chance to see him.
You know, one thing I will say to that, and this might be where we differ, I don't think Suzuki has as big of a name in the States as Jay White and Will Ospreay have. I mean, I haven't like Google Trend searched it, but I can pretty much guarantee the majority of Western fans are much more aware of who those two guys are versus Minoru Suzuki. I even heard people were talking about how like his rate, like he didn't do that hot in the ratings for the few segments that, you know, he's wrestled or shown up in. So like I think that most of the Western fan base really doesn't know him that way. You know what I mean? Kind of like how Kenta didn't do so hot when he showed up in AEW as well.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a fan base who doesn't know him. When the Bryan match was announced, there were some people like, you know, who's Minoru Suzuki, or him being announced for Impact. There were some fans kind of like being like, oh, you know, who is this guy? So I do think there is some fan base that doesn't know him, but I definitely think there is an aura of the hardcores that are like, I have to go see him if he comes to my town, because I don't know if I'll get a chance to see him again.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's nice about that, though, is just that, you know, one thing AEW's done well is sort of offered a little bit of something for everybody. So even if you aren't necessarily completely familiar with him, the mere fact that he's being showcased like some of these other guys in the past have, like a Nick Gage or like a Eddie Kingston when he first came in, you know, it just kind of shows you that people are like, oh, okay, like I don't know who this is, but he must be a big deal because other people seem to be aware of him, you know?
Right. All right, well, let's shift gears here. Let's talk about G1 Climax. So the last time since we recorded, there's been 3 nights of action, 2 A block nights and 1 B block night. So we got night 15, 16, and 17. I think for night 15 and 16, we can kind of quickly go through the matches. We don't need to go give it you guys like a big hole by hole, because also I think the key that we need to talk about is night 17, which was the A block final night, and just how the scenarios broke down and the A block winner there. And then we can talk about the scenarios leading into the B block finals, which will be airing probably by the time you guys are listening to this, and will lead into the final night on Thursday. So on night 15, it was October 13th. Show opened up with Hiromu Takahashi versus Kosei Fujita, defeating Fujita 7 minutes and 46 seconds. So we've been seeing Hiromu mix it up with these young lions. Dan, what are your thoughts been on Fujita and Oiwa?
So I really like these guys. Like, they come out with high energy. The biggest problem I have with them, and it's like with most young lions, is it's tough for me to tell them apart when they come out in the same gear, you know, shaved head, like. But no, these guys are killing it out there. They come out with this, like, super energy. It looks like they can run with anybody who goes into the ring with them. I'm excited to see more from them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. My whole thing is like when it was Tsuji Nimura, I figured out who they were pretty quickly because their body composition was so different with the size differential. But like,
right.
Oiwa and Fujita are not that different in terms of size, so it's really hard to like. Right. I still haven't even locked down like, wait, which one's which exactly?
I know. When I think I get it, I'm like, all right, that one's Oiwa. And then Kevin goes, oh, there goes Vegeta. I'm like, dang it. But yeah, good hard-hitting opener here with Hiromu, similar to the Oiwa match on Night 14. Hiromu gets the win here with the Boston Crab. Then we move on to a non-tournament match. We had Kota Ibushi defeating my man, Satoshi Kojima, 14 minutes, 56 seconds. Obviously, Kojima filling in for the injured Naito here. Very good, hard-hitting matchup here. Kojima always brings it when he's called upon, and I thought he did a good job here with Ibushi. Dan, you have any thoughts on that matchup?
I'll just say, like, Kojima can still go, and I would have liked to seen him maybe in the G1 instead of maybe some people who will remain nameless. How about that?
Like Naito?
Yeah, why didn't he just slide in a Naito spot, right? Like after that first night.
Well, the thing is, when you're booking a G1, you need to rely on your stalwarts, the guys that you can really depend on. And, Naito coming out with those raggedy knees, all taped up. You just know that something like this is bound to happen. Meanwhile, Kojima, year after year, night after night, putting in the work, showing up, kicking ass. Like, I don't get it. Like,
it's all that bread, man.
He should have another IWGP title reign at this point.
I'm for it. I mean, Evil gets to be champ. Why can't Kojima get another reign?
Bro, that's the funny thing is, like, no matter what, like, obscene scenario you bring up as to, like, who could win the title, it's like, well, Evil won, so anything's possible.
But moving on to the next match, Tomohiro Ishii defeated Yujiro Takahashi 17 minutes. Ishii is definitely one of those guys that could, get the fight out of anybody, especially a guy like Yujiro. I thought this was again, a nice little hard-hitting match here. Only 17 minutes. Ishii really kind of pushing the pace here and, getting Yujiro to work more of his style of matchup here. And, unfortunately for Yujiro, ends up falling to the Brain Buster. I know you mentioned, Dan, your wife doesn't like the Joshi. How does she feel about Peter when she comes to the ring?
I do not show her Peter. I told you guys this story before, but the first time I signed up for New Japan World, I was like, I forget which Wrestle Kingdom it is, but I'm going to watch, I might as well just start out with the Wrestle Kingdom. Very first match, Peter struts down the ring with Yujiro, and my wife's like, what did you sign up for? Why are you watching this? Are they all like this? I'm like, I don't know. They told me to watch this.
The Lex Luger, I don't know.
They told me.
Oh man, but yeah, Peter, she's been doing a great job with her interpretive dancing.
Are you serious right now?
I was doing what commentary's talking about. Kevin Kelly has been talking about how she's been, explaining Yujiro's strategy through her interpretive dancing. She helped figure out the tiebreaker scenarios with her dancing. For the visually impaired. She really helped them out.
I bet she did.
She better be on the best gear list, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Rich, James, I've been saying it the last couple of weeks now. If I don't see Peter on the ballot, something's wrong.
We're gonna stop the count if she ain't on there.
Yeah.
She's taking a very different kind of tone with Dan on.
Next matchup, we had Kenta defeating Tangaloa, 22 minutes and 12 seconds. We had a lot of Bullet Club shenanigans here in this matchup here with, Kenta powdering, trying to trick Tangaloa. Tangaloa almost kind of the babyface in this matchup here because Kenta was trying to use all his tricks, and Tangaloa wanted a straight-up matchup, and you had Jado on the outside kind of barking at Kenta as well to kind of get in there and get a clean match, and there was an exchange of low blows and all kinds of stuff towards the end here, and then finally Kenta's able to get one up on Tangaloa.
That's how I know that the Brotherhood of Bullet Club is real and a lot stronger than what we have, because listen, if Keeping It Strong Style like traded low blows to one another, that would be it. No more show.
I ain't too sweeting you after a low blow.
Like, we got heat. That's it. These dudes that are too sweeting each other afterwards, like, nah, bro. Like, that's it.
Yeah, Tango's like, good job, brother. You got me. Like, what? Dan, you have any thoughts on this match?
Not really. I mean, it's just another. How many of these Bullet Club versus Bullet Club matches do we have in this G1 where they
Too
just
many.
devolved into crotch shots and interference and all this? Like, I mean, I can understand if there's like 1 or 2 matches in a tournament like this, but my God, there's like one every night, at least one, sometimes more.
Right. And it was really disappointing on the Kenta end. Like, I was expecting more guys like Chase Owens and Tama Tonga to be doing this kind of stuff. But a guy like Kenta, I mean, I get it. He's not Noah Kenta, but he can still go. And a lot of his matches had the whole, turnbuckle off, low blow, powdering. I want to throw you in a, turnbuckle spot, the road dog turnbuckle spot to get the schoolboy win. It's like, dude, come on. Like,
Togoism has run rampant.
Yeah, Dick Togo's like, hey, you want to save your body? I got some ideas you can do in your match. But yeah, so it was fine. Kenta gets the win. Then we move on to the semi-main event here. So it was an important match for Zach when he was coming in with 10 points. He went up against Toru Yano, who he's had a history with and who Yano has defeated in the past. And Sabre started this match off real quick. He was trying to get the submission on Yano real quick. This match only 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Sabre was able to get the win, get up to 12 points. Probably one of the better Yano matches in the tournament. There wasn't a whole lot of time for shenanigans, and Zach was pretty much down to business here. And then the main event of the evening, your man, Dan, the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, defeated the Great Okan 25 minutes and 50 seconds. Dan, you have any thoughts on this matchup?
I don't know why Great Okan gets some of the hate that he garners online. Like, I enjoy his
Racism.
stuff.
No, a lot of Kane fans, they embrace the hate.
No, I enjoy him. He's definitely different than anybody else. I like the screams. I like the promos without a mic. One thing that always pops me in his matches is when he reaches over the rope and grabs somebody's head with one hand and just lifts them up. Like, it's so ridiculous, but it just gets me every time. But yeah, this is a pretty good match. Shingo with me can do no wrong, pretty much. But yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoy this matchup. And this was Great Okan's third main event in the row. He had the match of Ishii and the match of Ibushi, which I thought were both great matches as well. And this kind of capped off his streak here of main events. This was another great match with Shingo. Shingo coming in with the rib injury, and the ribs were taped up. And once again, I think, the Great Okan haters, they need to start watching. They need to watch these main events because he was there blow for Shingo. Very hard hitting, mixing in his interesting style that he has with the Mongolian chops and some of the, submission style wrestling that he has kind of worked on when he was on his excursion in the UK, which he really showed off in the Zack Sabre match earlier in the tournament. And also Okan trying to use the power advantage, working over the injured rib of Shingo. And, Shingo kind of coming from underneath. This was a very important match for Shingo to win. He's coming in at 10 points. If he lost this, he's pretty much going to be out of the running going into the final A block night. But very hard-hitting match here. Shingo was eventually able to get the win with the Last of the Dragon. Great outing for Shingo. Great job for Great Okan. So Shingo up to 12 points and Great Okan left at 8 points.
So Cage Match has this at 7.47. Do you think that's a little bit low of a rating?
Oh, yeah, that's low.
That's cap.
And again, that's what, do you think part of it is that the gimmick of Great Okan sort of turns people off, like it actually is getting too much heat with the viewing audience?
It must be, because that's kind of what I hear with like Meltzer, because Meltzer is like the one of the most famous Okan haters, and now he's like, oh yeah, Okan's a good wrestler, but the gimmick's just really weird. It just really throws me off. I can't get into the match because of the gimmick.
I don't know. Like, here's my thing. Right now, I don't think Okan has proven that he is capable or of the caliber of like the top tip, 5 or 6 guys in the company. He's not at that level where he should be like, having regular title challenges and title defenses for, at the top of the card. But when you mix him in with some of those next tier guys, your Evils, your Sonatas, and people like that, Kenta, I think he fits right in. And in a lot of cases, he's more interesting and unique than most of those guys. And in some cases, he's a better wrestler than some of them already, you know? So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of interesting where people like how divisive he is as a character.
Yeah, I mean,
and performer.
Yeah, like, I don't think he's IWGP heavyweight title material right now or on that level, but I still think in his first year with a gimmick and working with the main guys, I think he's doing a great job. I think he's having a great year. And these last 3 main events, he hung in there with Ishii and Ibushi and Shingo. Personally, I went 4.5 on this Shingo match. So maybe I might be on the high end. I know Grapple right now is a 3.97 average, so it seems like probably
you're on the high end there,
Mark.
I don't know, man. I was in this match. I thought Shingo's selling was great, and then this Great O'Connell was just destroying this man until the end of the match.
Jeremy Donovan, an inaccurate star rater.
Everybody else, cage match, y'all wrong. Grapple, y'all wrong. Y'all need to rewatch the match.
I think I went like 4.25 or something. So you're close.
That sounds way more accurate.
See, Dan knows what's up.
That's why Dan's here.
Yeah, I will.
I'd like to see Great O'Con maybe challenge for the Neverweight title at some point. I think that'd be a good way to get him built up into the main event scene.
The Neverweight title?
Isn't that what I said?
Yeah, but it's the Never Openweight title.
Never. Oh, sorry. Never Openweight title. Sorry, young boy.
Rookie. But yeah, I really enjoyed this matchup, and definitely I think it's definitely one to check out. So let's move on to night 16 B block action here. This is the second to last night before the final B block night that is airing right now as you're listening to this. So this show opened up. We had Bushi and Hiromu taking on Fujita and Oiwa. So Hiromu had already had singles matches with both guys, so a tag team matchup here. Bushi and Hiromu get the win. A lot of talk on commentary about best of the Super Juniors coming up, with both Bushi and Hiromu will probably be in. So kind of a little warm-up for them there, and good experience for Fujita and Oiwa.
I can't wait for this Bushi run. It's going to be sick.
Bushi's going to pull a Cobb. He's going to clean the block out. He's going to go undefeated.
Bro, Bushi is going... He's going to pull a Prince Devitt, bro. He's going all the fucking way.
Next up, we had the crown jewel Chase Owens defeating Taichi 12 minutes and 5 seconds.
You hate to see it.
Yeah, man.
Literally.
Yeah, Taichi kayfabe-wise has been having a rough tournament, especially now he also has some rib and back injuries going into the latter half of his matches in the tournament, and Chase Owens was able to capitalize on that, and Chase showed the package power driver. It can put the ace away, it can put Taichi away, and that's what happened here, man. This was a very surprise win. Was I the only one surprised here with Chase getting the win here?
No, I was surprised too. I've been disappointed with Taichi in this tournament, not by his matches or anything, but just like the results. Like, I feel like he should be getting more points than he is. And I wonder if maybe this is, with Zach getting so many points, like if this is leading to like maybe a breakup with them at some point after like World Tag League or something. I don't know. I'm looking maybe too far ahead.
No, we're always ahead. So
right. But I don't know. Maybe like they weren't going to have either one of them win. So maybe this just leads into the next tournament and like more storylines, I guess. But yeah, but I like Taichi. I wish he would have done a little better. I don't. How many points? Do you remember how many points he had last year? I'm sure it was.
It was like the same almost.
No,
I thought he had a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought he was at least 8 last year.
Yeah, I thought he was like 8 or something, but. I don't know the stats.
You didn't do your research?
Not that in depth. The other thing about this match was there was a point where Chase was like flirting with Miho Abe a little bit. Kind of creeped me out. I was like, maybe not you, buddy. Maybe you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, he's like, come on, give me a kiss. She's like,
why?
No.
What did Chase ever do?
Allegedly. I don't know.
Yeah, so the participants from last year's, looks like Taichi ended with 8 points in the A block in G130. Also, since we're talking about stats and research, I did do a Google trend search for Suzuki, Ospreay, and Jay White, and I was correct in that Will Ospreay and Jay White are more popular in the States, or more searched at least, than Minoru Suzuki. But the interesting thing is, Jay White back in January spiked way above everybody. Remember what happened in January?
The whole contract thing, yeah.
Then,
he was supposed to be at the Royal Rumble, right?
Right. Then in like March, April, Will Ospreay spikes to comparable heights, gets really close, and throughout the rest of the year up until like July, he's kind of like way above everybody. And then in July, Jay White's number goes even higher than it was at the beginning of the year. What happened around that time frame? Him and Kenny faced off at Impact, and there was the rumors about him and AEW and everything. But look at this one little blue spike at the very, very end there. That's Minoru Suzuki. He is suddenly, out of nowhere, more popular than either of them have ever been in this country.
That's 3 words. Holds on top, man.
I think the 3 letters are AEW.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Taichi. Yeah, disappointing tournament, like you said. Kayfabe wise, definitely expected him to get some more points here because I mean he just keeps getting better every year. You know, he's drifted away from a lot of the cheating and kind of antics that he used to do as a junior heavyweight and kind of his beginning run in as a heavyweight, and had some really good matches in this tournament. Probably one of the standout guys in the B block. But I think the problem here is obviously you had a block with Cobb and Okada, running the table and pretty much, Cobb going undefeated, Okada only losing 1 matchup. So unfortunately for everybody else, that meant they had to eat a lot of losses. But I definitely thought Taichi would have fared still a little bit better than he has done here. But yeah,
that's not the problem. The problem here is that you guys are not letting the story play out. Okay, let's see where it goes before we make any. You guys are being too critical. No, in all seriousness though, like the point you brought up there, Jeremy, is absolutely accurate. And you know what? That's pretty much the deal with Taichi most years. Is like he ends up in blocks with killers, and it's like that's just the way it is in New Japan. Like there's Okadas and Ibushis and Evils, and
this is not for you, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys ahead of him in that pecking order.
Right. Then next matchup, we had Sonata defeating Hiroki Goto, 15 minutes and 32 seconds. Thought this match was fine. I mean,
this is the most mid of matchups in New Japan right now.
This is the Mendoza line of matchups in the G1.
Oh man, we mentioned it last week with Chris. Like how far Sonata's fallen. This guy was G1 finalist last year with Ibushi. And now he's just, struggling to get points, having, just kind of mid matches.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, man. The matches, again, this was a fine little 3-star, 3.25 match. I was like, man, I expect more from both of these guys.
Yeah, this is it's just not G1 worthy, right? I mean, I know I haven't been watching them as long as you guys and most of the listeners, but the ones I've seen, this is just another match. Come on, this is the big time, right?
The thing is, of course, they could probably have a really great match if needed to, but they know where they're at.
They know the score.
It's the second to last B block night, and
and neither of them are winning.
Sonata's got 6, Goto's got 4. They're literally third from the top. They're literally in the middle of the card with 15 minutes. They're just gonna go out there and do what they do and get paid, go home. If there was a gambling site that would let me take how many matches are usually in the G1? 91, I think.
Something like that.
If you set this match as the barometer, as an over-under, and I just had to take what matches I thought would outperform this match and then what matches I thought would underperform it, I would make a lot of freaking money.
Oh, man. But yeah, Sonata ends up getting the win here over Goto, advances to 8 points. Goto stuck at 4 points. Then we move on to the next match, the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. He defeats Yoshihashi, 14 minutes and 13 seconds.
Hey, man, someone called Gato. This is booking malpractice at this point. Everyone's clamoring for Yoshihashi to get a challenge for the red belt against the Ace. What are they doing out here?
Hey, man, Yoshihashi had his red belt challenge in 2018.
Against who?
Against Kenny.
Oh, was that 2018? Wow.
And Ring of Honor taping or pay-per-view.
No, I remember it happening. I'm just like, dang. No, not that Yoshihashi. I'm talking about the new Yoshihashi.
The new and improved Yoshihashi.
I actually heard a rumor that Yoshihashi died and they replaced him with a different wrestler.
Oh, man. But yeah, I thought this was a very good match, very hard-hitting matchup here. You know, Tanahashi, you know, he can time kind of mail it in, but, you know, Yoshihashi works hard every night, so this ended up being a pretty good matchup. Let me see what I went here on the stars. I went 3.75 on this. You have any thoughts on this one, Dan?
Not really. It was fine. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't blow away or anything. It's like a New Japan match we've seen 100 times. So
yeah, but on the right stage, on the right night, with the right stakes involved, this could be a 5-star epic. Like,
that could be, but it wasn't. So.
This match is dome worthy. Like, Yoshihashi should have won, and then said, "I'm coming for that red belt," and then gone from there. You know, and then he wins it, and then the next year he wins the G1. And the next year.
Well, I mean, Evo won the title, so why?
Anyways,
so moving on to the semi-main event of the evening. This was a very important matchup here with Jeff Cobb taking on Evil. So Cobb was coming in with 14 points. Evil was coming in with 12 points, and this could have heavily affected the B block final night and could have left the door open for Evil to potentially win the B block, but thankfully, Jeff Cobb, the savior of NJPW World subscriptions, went out there. He was able to overcome Evil and Dick Togo and the Togoism and Tour of the Islands, man. He was able to put Evil away. 1, 2, 3. You remain undefeated, and Evil out of here. No shot of winning this year.
And that puts Jeff Cobb in rarefied air, the only man to have gained this many points in the G1 ever in history.
Wow. Stats.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy to think about. That's never happened, but yeah, I mean,
eight wins back to back to back to back. You know.
Yeah, dude, and like going into this, I was like, man, I was unspoiled watching. I'm like, Evil's gonna win, and he's gonna get revenge from Sonata from last year. He's gonna beat Sonata on the final night. He's gonna go into the block final. You know, they're gonna push House of Torture, but I was like pleasantly surprised when Cobb tore the island, this man.
See, all Gato's booking paid off for you, right? You were expecting the worst. You've been poisoned, and then you were pleasantly surprised. It was all worth it.
This was like an election. It was the lesser of two evils. We still had to go through a whole G1 of him
literally
pushed at the top.
Right. He's still ending with. He still has 12 points at the end of this night.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but thankfully, Cobb was able to overcome all the shenanigans and beat Evil and eliminate Evil from the tournament, and Cobb moved on. And then the main event here, Tama Tonga defeating Kazuchika Okada 24 minutes and 25 seconds. So
we should open the show with the audio of Tama Tonga beating Okada. Did Kevin Kelly go, "Do you believe in miracles"?
I don't quite remember his call, but yeah, the finish was Okada. I believe he was going for the landslide, that landslide driver he's been doing in this tournament, and Tama reversed it into the gun stun out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3. Caught the Rainmaker off guard, was able to beat him. Big upset win here, and really hurt Okada going into the final night. Dan, what do you think about this upset here?
It was pretty surprising. I mean, I wasn't expecting it, and it creates drama for the final match between him and Cobb, where Cobb can just wear Okada out for 30 minutes and get the tie, and then he wins the block, right? So I imagine that match will go to 29-45, and then probably Okada will win. But yeah, this is pretty surprising. You're talking about Kevin Kelly. I don't know when I'll get another chance to do this publicly, but Kevin Kelly's been awesome during this G1. And when Charlton's been with him too, he's been excellent as well. But Kevin Kelly brings the excitement level up of these Mendoza line matches to where they're much more exciting, right? He brings it every time, and I just I think he's great.
Yeah, man.
He's a worker.
Yeah. Double K, yeah, he's done a great job, especially those solo shows like you mentioned, and in the clap crowd environment. Like he's getting into it. He's giving you background. Also, our friend Chris Samsa's feeding him stats. He's a lot of stats to talk about, and so yeah, he's done a great job really telling the stories. And also, one of the big stories here was Evil potentially winning and talking about he feared that a lot of people would unsubscribe from New Japan World if Evil could win. So a lot of great stuff like that. He did a great job of telling the stories of. So yeah. Kevin Kelly did a good job here, and Jeff Cobb did a great job here, getting Evil out of here.
Who better than K Double? Nobody. But that's the crazy thing too, is like as things have progressed. I know I haven't been watching the G1, live and everything like that, but I was pretty convinced with the way things were going that we were going to wind up with, either a scenario where Okada went in undefeated on the final night and Jeff Cobb lost to Evil, kind of keeping everyone somewhat alive, or something like that. I don't know exactly how that was going to play out. Or I thought both those guys might go into the final night undefeated. So the idea, I really didn't think that Tama Tonga was going to beat Okada. Like, I don't know that Tama's ever had a singles win of this magnitude in his entire New Japan run. So, I don't think we should take that too lightly or overlook it. Does it mean big things on the horizon for him long term? I don't know if that's the case. But in the short interim, I think that might be significant, especially if hypothetically Okada ends up winning the G1 and the only guy that has a win over him is Tama Tonga. That's going to speak volumes as to the implications and for the upcoming shows down the line with the title challenges and briefcase defenses, stuff like that.
3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom with Phil, so
that too, and we don't even know. Initially when they announced how all this was going to play out, I think with the titles being split, quote unquote, and the G1 and everything, I had my scenarios. Jeremy had his scenarios. I'm sure everyone else did. Dan, you probably did. But then when they're like, there's 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, I pretty much just thrown all my booking out the window. I have no idea how they're going to actually book these 3 nights and what the G1's how the G1's going to play into all that, really.
Right. When you look back at previous G1s and you had only one Wrestle Kingdom, it was like, all right, this guy is going to main event the Tokyo Dome. So it really limited the guys who it's going to be. Like, who are they going to put in that dome to draw in this big title match? It just can't beat anybody. But now, like you mentioned, we have 3 nights now, so it's like it's pretty much anybody can get a shot. Especially we joked about it, but with Evil winning, they're doing a lot of interesting things in the main event, and with the new world title, we've seen guys like Ibushi, Ospreay, and Shingo really be elevated into that world title picture. Guys that really haven't been in that mix, so we're seeing a lot of new faces coming into the title picture, a lot of new main eventers getting chances. We saw guys like Sabre get a great run. Cobb's getting a monster run now. So with 3 nights, I mean, any of those guys could be in the mix for those dome shows. And then, with Tama Tonga, this win here also has implications, I would think, for, the Bullet Club Civil War storyline. In the match, he did use a Bloody Sunday on some of the Bullet Club leader moves, and Kevin Kelly did kind of mention, this was a similar kind of win to, when, Balor was facing Okada and AJ facing Okada. And so, could Tama Tonga finally kind of step up and be like, no, I should be the leader of Bullet Club. I beat Okada. I shouldn't have to follow Evil. I shouldn't have to follow Jay White. Kind of what I was saying last week, we could get a new wrinkle in this with having a third group split off with the Tongans following Tama Tonga.
Nice. So that is going to take us into the finals of the A block. So before we discuss the A block finals, I know you guys are going to kind of go in depth with this. We were talking to Chris privately, and he sort of started laying out the scenarios and essentially came up with, if I counted correctly, about 16 different potential outcomes for the top 4 remaining guys, which were Ibushi, Shingo, Kenta, and Zack Sabre Jr., who all stood at 12 points and, through roundabout ways had mostly wins over one another. So the tiebreaker situation was kind of complex at that point. But to kind of give you guys the concise rundown of what everything meant going into the finals, an Ibushi win would eliminate Shingo and Kenta, and a Kenta win would eliminate Zack Sabre Jr. and Ibushi. Conversely, if Ibushi won, Ibushi would win the block in 4 out of 8 scenarios, and the other 4 scenarios would go to Zack Sabre depending on how things shook out. And if Kenta won in his match with Ibushi, Kenta wins the block in 6 out of 8 of those scenarios, whereas 2 of the other ones were going to Shingo. So, even though they all had similar point totals, Kenta had the most likelihood of winning the block based on if he won and if particular things went right for him. And then Shingo had the least amount of potential to win, and then it was kind of split half and half for Ibushi and Zack Sabre. And it really, all 4 of those men's matches, especially the one with Ibushi and Kenta against one another, were going to be the main determining factors as to who's going to win the block, essentially.
Yeah, so unlike the B block night that's coming up, there's a lot of matches here this night that were very important leading into who was going to win the block. And so let's go over the matches that happened on this night. So opening the show, we had a non-tournament match. The Great Okan defeated Satoshi Kojima 10 minutes and 25 seconds. A little rekindling of the United Empire versus Tenkoji feud that we got at the beginning of the year. I thought it was a good little opener. When 10 minutes didn't go long, thought both guys looked really good. Another great outing for the Great Okan. And he ends his first G1 with 8 points. So pretty good for first G1. Then we had the first tournament match of the evening. We had Toru Yano defeating Tomohiro Ishii. And, this was actually a big match for Ishii. This was his first time that he could have gone to 12 points in the G1 had he had beaten Toru Yano.
Why, bro? Why do they have to do this?
Rug pulled out from under right at the end, yet again.
Yeah, man, I was like, this is a winnable match for Ishii. He could end with 12. You would look back last year, and you'd be like, oh man, Ishii ended with 12 points. Maybe this could be his year next year. Nah, left him where he's normally at, that 8 to 10 point range. Could not outbeat the antics of Yano here. Yano had the bag over the head, the t-shirt over the head, turnbuckle pad off, plenty of schoolboys and distracting the ref, low blows, all the gimmicks. You would think Ishii
Yanoism.
Yes, Yanoism. You would think that with Ishii being his former tag partner, he would be prepared and know how to be ahead and beat this man.
Nope, fell for the same old tricks everybody does.
So yeah, Yano pulls out the win here. So both of those guys end their tournament at 10 points. Now we get into the important matchups here. So first,
really sick of this 50-50 booking in New Japan.
Third matchup, Shingo Takagi and Yujiro Takahashi ended in a double count out. 13 minutes and 36 seconds. Going into this match, people were like, there's no way that they would pull that big of upset of having Yujiro beat Shingo. But, if Shingo wins, that kind of changes some stuff up for who can potentially go into this block. So they did the kind of outside finish and doing a double count out, which led to a draw, giving both guys 1 point. So Shingo ends with 13, Yujiro ends with 5. Dan, what do you think about this match?
Did it give them both a point, or was it considered a loss by both of them?
They both get a point.
Yeah.
Okay. They should have points taken away for that finish. All right. Anytime I watch a Shingo match, I want to see a good match, and this just disappointment, man. If they could have had him win and still not win the block. So I don't know. This whole show was just weird to me. I don't know about how you guys felt about it, but it just seemed not what I was expecting from the G1, block final night.
Yeah, I'm looking at the attendance, 874. I'm looking at the cage match ratings, and I'm seeing a lot of 6s and 5s.
Yeah, compared to your normal A block final night, this was not it. Majority of the matches I went 3.25 on. The Sabre match I went 3.75, and the same with the Ibushi Kenta match. So not the greatest night of action here. But also the most compelling thing that happened was just the scenarios of who was actually going to get through. And the whole thing here at the end, Yujiro hit the pimp juice on the outside of Shingo, and Kevin Kelly was selling that big, and they were teasing that Yujiro was going to win by count out, and then Shingo was able to get up and hit Yujiro with the Death Valley driver on the outside, and he was climbing back in, and it was like 19, and then Yujiro grabbed his foot, 20. I was like, what?
What year was Pimp Juice out? Was that like 2001?
Like 2002, somewhere around in there.
Like
20 years ago.
Yeah, it's like a 20-year-old deal.
The problem is Yujiro should have hit him with the big juice on the outside, and he would have had enough time to get back in. But I did kind of like the calamity of this finish, because like Chris Charlton didn't know what was going on, Kevin Kelly didn't know what was going on. Like even kind of the fans are kind of murmuring to themselves, kind of like, what's the scenario, who's getting points, like what's happening, and like, I think it's a draw or no contest, like what's happening, and then finally it was ruled a draw. It wasn't no contest, it was a draw, so both men get 1 point. So that put Shingo at 13, which Ibushi and Kenta coming into their match, they were both at 12. So if those guys had went to a no contest and got no points, that was pretty much Shingo's only hope of going through, or less, because even if they had drawn and they went to 13 as well, Ibushi beat Shingo, so he had the tiebreaker over Shingo, so he would have gone through. So Shingo at this point was just would have hoped for a no contest from the main event.
Najo Brown wrote as the show review on October 19th, 2021. He gave the show 1.0. Worst New Japan show in my memory. There were no really terrible matches here, but absolutely every booking decision was just disgusting. I have an awful aftertaste after this show. A similar emptiness I only experienced after last year's Dominion. 1.0. I think we should start a new deal where we just start reading people's bad reviews on cage matches, part of the show.
the bad review of the week. Well, we do have a lot of people who are salty about booking decisions, and one of them comes here with this next matchup. So we had Tangaloa defeating Zack Sabre Jr. here. So if Sabre would have won this, he could have got 14 and potentially have won the block here, but Tangaloa was able to pull I guess it's kind of an upset, but not really when you think about, the GOD Dangerous Tekkers feud. Zack Sabre beat Tangaloa earlier on in the year, so this is Tangaloa getting his win back. And
fuck all that. Tangaloa ain't beat anybody of note ever as a singles guy for like his entire career. This is like his one only big win ever. It's a huge upset, like ginormous.
It is, but when you look at the booking, it's like, all right, Tekkers are tag champs. You look at the B block where Tama Tonga beat Taichi early in the tournament. It's like, clearly they were setting up a tag title match, and it made sense to have Tangaloa here beat Sabre because that's the direction they're going in.
I guess. I just, I'm looking. I think this is something we kind of knew, though, going into this G1. When we looked at the cards up and down, you looked at the A block finals, and you're like, man, that looks like a night 11 show and not a night, 17 show. And it played out like a night 10 or night 9 show. So I guess there's not really too many surprises there. But, the thing is, they booked the shit. So, it's up to them to decide who goes where, when, what, and the other. And, it's booking. They booked this to be this way.
Well, how much do you think of it was booked beforehand, and how much of it was because of Naito's injury?
Well, even without Naito being gone, people still had complaints about this night on paper anyways.
Yeah, because Naito would have been facing Okan, which people are down on Okan.
That could have been like for the block championship.
It probably would have played into it in some roundabout way, but that's what was going to happen. This was all going to be roundabout matches for the most part.
Right.
Yeah. And we did have a question here from Reddit user _stress_. Says, this is 100% me being salty, Sabre lost, but do you guys think Gato's formulaic booking style could sometimes be detrimental? Sabre lost because, well, that's what happens when you start hot in the G1. That's how it goes. But in storyline, Sabre crippled Naito, tapped out the IWGP World Champion, and beat the guy that has now gone on to the G1 Finals 4 times in a row. He shouldn't be getting rolled up by tag wrestlers. Not after that. Sabre still had the G1 of his life and has a title shot coming to him, but I guess my frustration stems from how recently Gato picks and chooses when to stick to his formula. We can hotshot Evil, but we gotta take our time with an over better than ever ZSJ. I struggle to understand this, and again, I'm just a bit salty and mad that he lost. Still a great run. Thanks for the vent.
No, he said that the Mad Lad lost.
Oh, the Mad Lad
Mad Lad.
lost.
Yeah, the Mad Lads. The Mad Lads did it. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of people that feel this way, you know. You know, there is a part of me that feels like they could have heated up Zach to go all the way and to get pushed through, for sure. So, you know, sort of similar to like what they're doing with Cobb. I mean, it's a double-edged sword because on the one hand, you can complain about the booking at the end and, you know, maybe it is formulaic and everything, but at the same time, you're also pointing out everything that they did give to him, all the big wins, all the big performances, all the main events, and, you know, the potential title challenge that is coming down the road. You know, there is a part of me that thinks like, well, what if that title challenge never comes? Because that could happen, especially if he's in, you know, if they do kind of slot him back into the tag division role, that title challenge that you think is coming for Shingo or whatever, that might never happen.
Right.
That's where I think that could be problematic.
Well, the thing here is, like, you know, he said, you know, Tangaloa is a tag wrestler, but unfortunately, like, Zack Sabre Jr. is a tag wrestler. He is part of the tag team champions right now. And you got World Tag League coming up. You got Power Struggle coming up. Like, he's still a tag champion. Like, they were never probably going to go all the way with him as a tag champion. So he's still in this role. They're getting ready to do this GOD feud. So maybe if he went into this tournament without the title, I could probably be a little bit more upset. But knowing that he was one half the tag champs, like, you had to figure that he was probably going to be slotted back in that role after this tournament.
But there's also the aspect where it's like, you know, the reality is basically this. I don't think people are going to be happy one way or the other, because if he wasn't going to win the block, like, the only way people would have been happy is if he beat all these fools and won the block and went to the final. You know what I mean? Because it's like they had him beat all the overpowered guys in the block for the most part, all the big stars he beat. And then for him to not go through, that requires him to lose to some less than caliber talent. If it was the other way around and he was just beating all the guys that you would expect him to beat and then losing to the top tier guys like he's done most years, people would be complaining about how he's being underpushed and underutilized. So it's like, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, really, with Zach in this situation. I think the only thing that would have made people happy is for them to take a chance on him and put him in the finals and go forward. And I'm not saying that that would even be a bad thing given, you know, what we're about to discuss, but I feel like that's what most people's opinion are on it, especially people that are really high on Zack Sabre in this situation. They wanted something fresh and new. They thought they were getting that with Zach and then kind of felt disappointed. But, you know, of all the possibilities, I feel like this might be the best one if he wasn't going to win the block, because again, he beat all the top guys in the block and he's getting a title shot. You know, am I happy he lost to Tangaloa? No, but I mean, there is a silver lining here, and you'd be remiss if you didn't mention that there actually was one.
Right.
I don't know, Dan. What do you think?
No, I agree with you guys. Like, I mean, he has, like, he went through a murderer's row of some of the best wrestlers in New Japan. I mean, he's got lots of feathers in his cap, so it's not like he's completely crippled, you know, leaving this tournament. I don't, is part of this because he's the gaijin over there and they're holding him back because of that? Maybe, I don't know. But he's one of the gaijin that stayed over there and been with him through thick and thin through this whole COVID thing. So you would hope they would kind of reward him for that, but it doesn't. I mean, other than these wins, they're not. I don't know if they'll actually give him the title shot or not. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, according to Cage Match, this was the match of the night anyway. So.
Yeah, I mean, this was a very fast-paced matchup because similar to the Yano match, like, Sabre was trying to get a quick win because he knew he needed a win here to, you know, keep his chances alive. And so from the jump go, I mean, he was trying to get Tanga Loa to tap out. He had him in a octopus stretch like in the first few seconds of the match. So this was very high pace, and Tanga Loa has been done pretty well in this tournament, not being used to single competition, and so he did really good here in this match with Sabre, keeping up with the high pace. And Tanga Loa was doing some of the the European clutches and stuff like that, and kind of keeping up with Sabre. So good stuff here.
Tanga Loa's best singles match?
I would think so. It would either be this or maybe the Ibushi match. But yeah, with Sabre, I just think this G1, I know a lot of people might not see it, but I think this was an elevation. Like you mentioned, Josh, in previous years, he's kind of in that 8-point range. He's, middle of the card. He's losing to a lot of the top guys. And since the New Japan Cup run in 2018, he really hasn't gotten a huge push like he's gotten in this tournament. So I think this is kind of a reheating, a re-elevation of Zack Sabre Jr. I just think it's unfortunate right now. He's kind of stuck in the tag picture, so maybe that's why they didn't go all the way with him. But I definitely think, beating Shingo and Naito and Ibushi, this is going to mean something, I think, going forward. And like we mentioned, there's 3 Wrestle Kingdom nights. Like, you got to think he's going to be in the mix there. You also have Power Struggle coming up. He's probably going to be in the World Tag League, obviously, as a champions, but he could get a shot at Power Struggle, maybe...
It's an elevation, I mean, I'd be, if this was me a few years ago, I'd be like, just trust Gato, he's coming through and, blah, 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 and maybe I don't feel that way specifically, but it's clearly a higher elevation of him as a performer and as a character than he's been since the entire time he's been in New Japan, save for the one New Japan Cup that he won, So I think people do have to kind of realize that. Do I think it means he's going to be, a top 5 or top 6 guy after this? A pillar? No. But, this puts him much more closely in line with your Kentas and your Evils and guys like that than it does, I don't know, Yano or something like that.
Right. I think an interesting thing, too, like with him kind of being, like you mentioned, Dan, like the main gaijin over there, we're kind of seeing him similar to like Ospreay and Kenny, like learning the language. Like he's talking more in Japanese. He's cutting more Japanese promos and kind of really showing, obviously living in Japan, he's getting more, he's been more kind of like a babyface kind of in this tournament, depending on who he's going against. So he could be kind of slotting in that kind of Ospreay Kenny path where like the crowd kind of sees him as one of their own, and that could help him with a push there.
Bro, I'd get behind a babyface CSJ. Hardcore.
Yes. Just freaking...
Maybe Tai Chi's going to turn on him in the tournament.
Nobody turns on anybody in Suzuki-gun. They're Suzuki-gun for life.
Yeah.
They're Ichiban.
Archer, still a member.
Davey Boy Smith Jr. is still a member of Suzuki-gun.
Shelton Benjamin, still a member.
Shelton X is still a member.
For life.
Well, let's talk about the big main event here. So with Tanga Loa beating Zack Sabre, that was it for Sabre, and it all came down to the main event here. Both guys coming in with 12 points. The Golden Star, Kota Ibushi, and Kenta, 26 minutes and 16 seconds. The Golden Star, Kota Ibushi, he does it again. He's able to overcome and defeat Kenta, making his 4th final appearance. This is crazy. What did you... Well, I know you probably didn't see the match, Josh, but Dan, what did you think about the match?
I thought it was great. There was some shenanigans by Kenta in it, but I thought it was Kenta's best match of the tournament, probably. There were some extended 19 counts in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A little home cooking, maybe, for Kota Ibushi in there.
The fix is in.
I thought it was great. That table spot...
Oh, my gosh.
I was watching it live that morning because I usually wake up early, and when this stuff's on, I'll watch like the main event, and then I'll go back and watch the other stuff later in the day. And I audibly gasped, in my living room at like 6 a.m. or whatever, like, oh my gosh, he's really going for it with that table like folded up like that. And then he hit, he landed, and I was like, oh my God, he just killed Kenta.
Yeah, Josh, did you see any GIFs or videos of this table spot?
No.
So essentially, Ibushi has Kenta on the table on the outside, and he's going to the top, and he's going to do some, jump off and put him through the table. Well, the table like goes down with Kenta from Kenta's weight, and so like, the table's just kind of angled there with like Kenta on it, and Ibushi's like, screw it, I'm still
right
gonna
against the railing.
yeah. Ibushi's like, screw it, I'm still gonna jump on him anyway, and freaking
It's like,
splash.
hey, it's a 30-minute time limit. I got to get this in now.
Yeah, doesn't set the table back up, just freaking just jumps and just lands on Kenta on like the angled table. It was a crazy bump.
I couldn't believe neither one of them got hurt. It was, I was like, oh my God.
Well, you know, us pro wrestlers, we're built different, you know?
Well, Josh, I remember you telling that story about you taking the bump off the apron to the floor, and you're just like, oh my God, like that. So I can only imagine like Ibushi doing a body splash to the floor on an angle table on Kenta. I'm like, jeez.
Yeah, and keep in mind that, like, literally the ring that I was jumping off of was a low boy ring, like, probably only, like, maybe 1.5 feet, 2 feet off the floor. And I was jumping onto a giant padded crash pad, but I hit it so hard that, like, well, you know, I was probably like 240 at the time, so it just sucked.
Yeah, I'm sure Kenta was not happy that Ibushi went through with that. That was a painful spot there. But like you mentioned,
I've got the best review of this match once you guys are done. It's a promo, bro.
For me, like I thought there was a little bit too much shenanigans for me to put it in the notebook. I went 3.75, and like you mentioned, Dan, there's a lot of long 19 counts. It was like 19. Wait a minute. All right, he's in. You know, Kenta, he tried to get Ibushi trapped in the backstage area, and he was trying to get the count out win, take the easy way out. I was really hoping that we would see more of what we saw in the Zack Sabre match of Kenta, where he was just very vicious, you know, very hard striking the whole match. There was very minimal shenanigans in that matchup. But I mean, once they turned it up, I mean, Kenta was slapping the crap out of Ibushi in this closing streak of the match here. Great Psycho knee for a near fall. But then Ibushi was able to come back, V-trigger, Kamigoye to the front, Kamigoye to the back, and was able to beat Kenta.
That's a very suspect what you just said. So they gave him a lot of long counts and slow counts, but they didn't seem to give that same kind of courtesy to Shingo earlier in the night. So, you know, what's the deal there?
Well, you know, there've been 2 new referees on this tour. I think one of the new refs might have been that Shingo match and didn't realize, you know, you give them like 19 and a half before, you don't just go straight to 20. You give them a little time to get in there.
It's like LeBron James and traveling, right? You just kind of let some stuff go.
Yeah.
Did they look like Earl Hebner or Dave Hebner?
No.
The third Hebner.
So, Wuzong Shen wrote, Kota Ibushi in the final 4 years in a row. Is there really? No, he wrote 4 years in a roll. 4 years in a roll. Is there no one available
Rolling.
in New Japan Pro Wrestling? He is already 39. Where is the future of this company? Why can't they just give a chance to ZSJ or Ishii? Besides, the matches suck too. I never thought there'd be a representative decision match boring like this one between Ibushi and Kenta. Is there anyone out there that still believes in Kenta? It sucks. It just sucks. If New Japan no longer has exciting matches, then why would I still care about it? This company is already, all capitals, rusted from inside to outside. I used to be a fan of New Japan, really, but now it just makes me feel disgusting.
That sounds like our review of Evil winning the title.
Oh man, you know, like I'm not like the happiest that they're going with Ibushi again, but I kind of get it. But at the same time, like, how can anyone carry this energy for when? Where was this energy last year when Evil was fucking up the main event scene?
So,
you know what I'm saying?
So wait a minute. In this review, they said Kota's 39. Why are we going with someone so old? And then for an alternative, they say Tomohiro Ishii, who's 45.
Or Zach.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I mean, I like their olds on top idea. That's great. I'll go for that. But...
Are you allowed to thumbs up people's reviews on here? I'm gonna.
No.
How come these guys that are giving 1.0s to the show review are not getting like, anti New Japan bias like warnings like you did?
I don't know.
Tell the listeners what happened, Dan.
I hardly ever rate anything on there, and usually I only rate things I like. But there was what I forget which NXT match. Oh, it was Dexter Lumis versus Cameron Grimes, right? It was that like zombie match or whatever the hell it was. And I gave it 1 star, and then I went into cage match one day, and like I couldn't do anything, and there was a notice saying, you're on a 6-month probation for your clear anti-WWE bias. I'm like, what? Like, I never rate anything, and that match sucked. Like, all the other ratings were bad. Like, I don't know. I got caught by some bot.
It was Striga. He literally, went after you personally.
I guess. So I barely rate anything on there anymore. I'm scared.
Dylan Fox, talk to your boy.
Yeah, Dylan, what's going on here? But Josh, reading that review, you brought up a hot topic, man. There are a lot of people upset, enraged by the Golden Star going into the final. Yeah, hurt. Hurt business.
Punished.
Yes, the fans feel punished by this decision. We had several questions here. Red User Raising Falcons said, I really don't feel hyped by Ibushi winning his block. Do you feel Ibushi winning a block was too safe of a choice? Friend of the show, Rich Latta, Kota Ibushi getting turned on? Justified or nah? And Dom Homie 101, thoughts on the backlash from the fans due to Ibushi making the finals for the 4th straight year? In my opinion, I don't have a problem with it due to the fact that I see New Japan want to do a big-time match for the G1 finals due to a weaker G1 lineup. And Okada vs. Ibushi is the biggest G1 final match that you could do at this point. The story writes itself with Ibushi trying to three-peat against the ace of the company that's on the climb back to the top.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what? The alternative, there's a story there as well. We saw an incredible match between Kota Ibushi and Jeff Cobb just this past year. And I don't know if you recall, but when we reviewed that match, I said that Ibushi didn't beat Jeff Cobb. He survived him. And that's basically how I saw it. And we both agreed at the time that they probably have a bigger, and better match in them down the road. Who knows? I'm not saying that I'm expecting Cobb to win, but Cobb versus Ibushi could also be a hot ticket match as well,
Right. Dan, what are your thoughts on Ibushi going into the finals 4th year in a row?
I mean, I'm not too surprised by it. He's like one of the best wrestlers in the world. So why wouldn't you want him, to be a Wrestle Kingdom main event, maybe down the road, depending on if he beats Okada or Jeff Cobb. I don't have any problems with it. I love his matches. I love watching him. I think he's great. I can see how some people would want maybe them to elevate like Zack Sabre Jr. or whatever. But like Ibushi's a known quantity. He's going to bring it when he comes up there. And I don't know. Like, I don't know the metrics in Japan, like if Ibushi sells more tickets, like if he's in a main event or something, but I'm sure that plays some part of it as well, right?
Yeah, and that's something I mentioned in a group chat that we're in. There are some people kind of talking about, why didn't they go with Sabre? Why didn't they go for Ibushi? They're probably going with Okada. Why aren't they going with a fresh matchup? I'm like, at the end of the day, like, they have to do what draws. They know that Ibushi versus Okada can draw. Also, we have to wait and see if Okada's going to win, but I'm pretty sure Okada's going to win. So they know that Ibushi versus Okada can draw. It's an incredible matchup. They haven't wrestled each other in a singles match, I think, since it was last year that they were in the G1 again. So they haven't wrestled each other since last year. So it's a pretty protected matchup. It's going to draw, and they're in a pandemic time where they're trying to recoup from money. They haven't had full houses. Like, when you're down, you put the belt back on the ace. Okada hasn't been in the title mix in a while. He hasn't won a G1 since 2014. Like, this is a time to, reheat Okada and get business up. When they made the most money, Kazuchika Okada was the world champ and was in the middle of that incredible reign. So they need some stability. They need somebody that's going to help increase business and get business back, especially with, the state of emergency being lifted and Japan doing great in vaccinations. Like, pretty soon, we're probably going to see the capacity levels raised, and you need people who are going to draw. And so that's why I think they're going this route with Ibushi and Okada.
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot to kind of unpack here, a lot of talking points and, different thoughts. One thing I will say is right now the company is in a down period. There's no denying that. A lot of it mostly has to do with, the constraints and hardships brought on by COVID, and we've heard good news about some of the COVID numbers and things like that in the country. So that's good news. And maybe that's a sign of things to come. Hopefully, we're starting to turn the corner on this thing over there. So that would be great. But, regardless of all that, we can make our arguments for what's best for business and what the company and what the bookers are thinking. But if the fans and the viewers are not happy, then they're not happy. We can make our logical arguments all day, but people are not happy about it, And I don't think it's necessarily that people don't like Ibushi, although I've always said I don't think he's ever gotten to that top tier that he should get to. He's kind of always just, that sort of eluded him. I think it's just the fact that, this is his fourth time in the finals. 4 years is a really long time to go with the same guy over and over and over again, even if you like the guy. I can't think of any performer, no matter who it is, that you put in the top spot of a G1 Climax for 4 years running and people being happy about it. Not Shingo, not Ishii, not Kenny Omega, not Okada, not Naito, not Tanahashi. I can't think of a single soul that people would be stoked on. So I don't even really blame Ibushi so much as just the booking. That it probably wasn't a wise idea to do this, to be honest. But from a business standpoint, I do get why they're probably doing it. The other thing too is you kind of have to look at the two sides of Ibushi. There's the post and the pre pneumonia. Pre-pneumonia, this guy came into the year, headlined Wrestle Kingdom, unified the belts, became the first ever world champion, kind of carried the company on his back in the early part. And then, after losing the belts and things like that, had the pneumonia scare and hasn't really still been quite the same performer. I know I haven't seen all the G1, but looking at the ratings, it hasn't necessarily been a classic Kota Ibushi G1, that we're used to seeing. And that might also play into why people feel this way, Yeah. That being said, people are complaining about them not doing something fresh, not doing something new. But look at all the guys that they've gone with in this year's G1 that they've elevated or that they've given big wins to, or the very fact that Shingo Takagi is the world champion, or the fact that Will Ospreay won the world title this year, or the fact that Kota Ibushi, an outsider, was the guy that unified the belts, became the first world champion. They have done a lot of fresh things in this company this year. It's just less people are watching the product and the atmosphere isn't the best, Am I happy that it's Ibushi going into the finals? No, because there's not very many outcomes that I think play favorably booking. I think the storyline makes logical sense, but I'm not stoked about it, especially given his run of matches this year or in this G1. But that's pretty much my analysis. I'm trying to go at it from all sides and, but I think people do need to reel it in a little bit. I think some of the outrage is a little overblown because, again, what was the alternative? I guess you could go with Zach and that would have been great, but they didn't do that. So
yeah, you brought up a good point about the match quality this year. Also they've been telling the story, whether it's a story or actually Ibushi still trying to recover. Clearly Ibushi was not, like you mentioned, it wasn't the classic Ibushi G1. He the Ishii match was disappointing compared to previous Ishii matches, and you look at the star ratings. Well, I even look at my own star ratings. I'm he did not have as many great matches as he probably had in previous. So I'm sure that leads.
Neither did Ishii.
Right, that too, yeah.
Those are your top two guys for years and years and years, and neither of them had the type of G1 they typically have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's age or, maybe just the atmosphere,
Yeah. I'm sure both of those probably had something to do with it.
But we got a question here from someone with an incredible username. Pussy Destroyer 83619 asked us, didn't like how the A block ended. If Okada really wins the B block, then it feels like New Japan doesn't like to take risks. It's always the same people at the top. This G1 was particularly interesting due to ZSJ, Kenta, and Cobb having really outstanding runs. It's people you don't typically see dominating the NJPW scene. Sure, they might get title matches and a main event every full moon, but you know they're a ceiling for those types of wrestlers. This G1 felt like they were doing away with those ceilings, but it just ended up being Ibushi winning again. We've already seen this, and maybe that won't go too far in the story if he's going to win it 3 times, but I'm just not engaged for it. Hoping Cobb wins B block, because if Okada wins, it will feel the same way as Ibushi winning A block. I'd be way more excited for Ibushi versus Cobb than Ibushi versus Okada. I know NJPW likes to slow burn through character development storylines, but I feel they need to be more flexible. How do you feel about this sentiment, and do you think talent-wise and storyline-wise, New Japan is stagnating?
Well, I think you kind of touched on some things with this question earlier, Josh. I think, like you mentioned, I think they have done some new and fresh things this year. We had the United Empire kind of form and launch. They were pushing Will Ospreay in the mix. We had Kota Ibushi, Shingo. I mean, previous to COVID, I would have never thought Shingo would have been the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Like, I always thought he was going to be a never guy, maybe in IC before they merged that. But you have a guy like Shingo in the main event. And so, like you said, they have been trying and doing some new, fresh stuff. They had the Ospreay-Shingo rivalry. I mean, they elevated that junior rivalry into a heavyweight rivalry. Those are 2 guys that were, main event best Super Juniors, and now they're fighting over the world title. So I do think they are trying to do some new stuff. They are trying to elevate some of these guys that are the top wrestlers. But again, less people are watching. There's less buzz, so people are probably missed out on some of the changes and stuff that they were trying to do this year. And then again, it's kind of storyline versus business. At the end of the day, like, they're still trying to recoup. They have to figure out what's going to be best for business, but also make storyline sense. Like you said, storyline-wise, it does. The story tells of Ibushi trying to recover from pneumonia and doing something that nobody's ever done before. And like, again, like, they're trying to make Ibushi special, and they're still, like you mentioned, like, he's still not that level. So they're trying to give him stuff to get him to that level. And so being a guy
Sounds like Roman Reigns.
Acknowledge Ibushi.
Acknowledge me.
So yeah, I just think that they're trying to get him to that next level, trying to get him as a top guy, and so this is their way of doing it.
Yeah, I feel like just like you guys said, it's like business versus storylines. They have to go with what makes money, but like you said, they've done some experimenting, which maybe will pay off in the long run. Like we've said a million times, they've got 3 nights of Wrestle Kingdom to fill, and they've got shows after that. So maybe what they're doing with like this Cobb run and this ZSJ run is that they're kind of testing the waters to see if these guys have it in them to main event later on. Maybe they're seeing the reaction to, the positive reaction these guys are getting with the runs, and maybe that will pay off for them in beyond Wrestle Kingdom.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. It's just because your favorite guys aren't in the finals of the G1 doesn't mean that it's lost on management and lost on the bookers as to the upside with them and the potential that they have, And I think that has been highlighted throughout the G1. The guys that they have pushed, like Jeff Cobb, doing something historically that nobody has ever done in the history of the G1, whether they were domestic, gaijin, doesn't matter. It's never happened before. So there's that dominance. And then you look at Zack Sabre Jr. and what he did going through literally the murderer's row of the, company and like just fucking everybody up. And I mean, there's a lot that has come out of this G1. But, the funny thing is he mentioned early on, he was like, this company doesn't like to take risks. And I'm like, yeah, we've been saying that for almost 4 years now. And this is not a new sentiment or, the very fact that there's a New Japan Strong in America going on where guys from all the other companies in North America, not named WWE, get to work together and that they have working relationships with AEW. That's like mind-blowing because that's not the kind of thing you'd expect from a conservative company like New Japan. Yeah, they're extremely conservative. So, you take a company that's conservative, you take a fantastic booker like Gato, but he's also formulaic, and then you throw all of the different things that have come up against them over the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'm not trying to cap for them, but a lot of other companies wouldn't be doing as well as New Japan has done, given the circumstances. So I don't know. As far as the sentiment, I think most people looked at this G1 on paper and knew it was not going to be that great. That's just the bottom line. I think that they've done some unique and some interesting things. There've been some good matches, but at the end of the day, when we kind of previewed this G1, when we looked at it, and the feeling was pretty much the same across the board. There was not buzz. There was not excitement, not in the same way that there was last year when that all-time B block was, out there. And I think you kind of almost have to look at this G1 and just say it's a little bit of a wash, And the thing that people are forgetting about throughout all of this is that we have no fucking clue what those 3 nights of G1 are going to be like, what they mean, and what the build from now till then is going to look like. Now, could they mishandle it and botch it? Yeah, they could. I'm not telling you it's going to be fantastic, but there's a lot of possibility there for them to do something great, especially if the crowds are coming back, if the constraints are being lifted, because as soon as we get the talent from North America coming back, and as soon as we have the clap crowds gone and people can make noise again, there is an end to this, storm. There's light at the end of the tunnel for sure.
Testify.
Well, I mean, it's just true. It's not that's not a cap thing. It's just the fact of the matter is we can identify what the issues in the company are very easily, and we can see that they're not going to be here forever. And when they do go away, the company that, for better or for worse, is still the best in-ring product in the world. And that's not a fanboy saying. Just go look at the ratings. They put on the best in-ring product, bar none, night in and night out. They just do. And once you put them in the right element and give them the right talent, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% absolutely agree with you. I mean, New Japan this year, obviously not the best year, but you look at some of the top-end stuff. You look at Tanahashi, Shingo and Ospreay, their title matches, the Ibushi Naito matches, the Cobb Shingo. There's been a plethora of great matches this year. You look at New Japan Strong, what they're doing over there, and you just know once things are back to normal, this company's going to be rocking and rolling again.
The only other thing I will say, and then we can move on, is I understand that there are people who don't want Okada at the top again, right? They feel like he's overpushed or whatever, but the company has never been better than when Okada was at the top. The glory years, the times that people are clamoring for, that they want to go back to, that they wish, the Renaissance period. The guy that was at top was Kazuchika Okada. The guy that was having the best matches, period, was Kazuchika Okada. And he's never won. He hasn't won the G1 since 2013?
I think 2014.
2013, 2014. We're talking about a 7-year, 8-year drought for this guy. So, I mean, it's not like he's going out there and he's in the finals 4 years in a row like Kota Ibushi. It's not like that. And he's also never held this IWGP World Heavyweight title. It is a prize that he's never attained before. I understand it's the top title and he's held that plenty of times and set records, but it's a new goal. It's a new story and everything like that. So, and who's to say he's even going to win it? People are acting like it's a foregone conclusion. You don't know. For me, am I going to be upset about seeing the best wrestler maybe of all time headlining big matches and big shows? No, I'm not going to, complain about that. And, if you would rather see, I'm sorry, but I just can't think of anyone else in the company outside of Shingo or Will Ospreay that you can give me as a name that you think is better or more deserving to be at the top than Kazuchika Okada. I don't know. I don't want to shit on the viewers, but yeah, I would rethink my opinions because he is the best. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I mean, this guy's got more highly rated matches than anybody else in the history of wrestling, and he's still in his early 30s. Like, I don't know what we're even complaining about.
Dan, what are your thoughts on Kazuchika Okada?
I just hope he gets away from the money clip.
That's the one thing, you know?
Yeah, I lately his matches are not up to Okada levels, maybe because of that kind of stuff. But yeah, like you said, Josh, I'm not going to be upset if one of the greatest wrestlers of all time is, headlining shows all the time. Like, why would you be upset about that? I don't understand.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, in WWE where when Cena was always a champion and people would complain, why are they putting the belt on Cena again? And it's like, well, kind of the same thing for business purposes, but his matches were nowhere near as great as Okada's matches in ring wise.
Right.
I mean, Cena still had good matches. When you compare like the in ring work, it's like I would love to have a guy like Okada that's going to be having these bangers as a champion night in and night out.
Peace on 91 said, I was live in attendance for the A Block final night, and I was surprised to see that the building was only half full. In my section, there are many empty seats around me. Do you think the lack of a big crowd is a sign of a lack of interest in the product locally? I recently went to a similar level of show, Stardom's 5-Star Grand Prix, in that same venue, Yokohama Budokan, and the attendance numbers were much higher on that day. I don't think you can say it's because of COVID, as these days the coronavirus case numbers in Japan are down to only triple figures. There were only 425 cases on 10/18, and most people, like myself, are fully vaccinated now. What can New Japan do to try and fix the current sense of nadir around the product? I'll start. I agree. I don't think it's necessarily indicative that the product is down as a whole completely, although I do think it's a key indicator. But look at the card. This wasn't a card that you'd look at on paper and be like, oh shit, what a sexy A Block final. I gotta be there. It's really not. So I'm not surprised. Well, also historically, the A Block always usually does significantly less numbers than the B Block and the G1 Climax finals do. It just always does. But then you kind of combine all the factors and the fact that attendance has been down across the board, and and any other number of issues that we've kind of discussed. And yeah, I agree with you, PCA 91. But if you had loaded up that show with incredible matches and compelling, like outcomes as far as what the scenarios would have been going into the A Block final, I think we'd be talking about it, be having a different discussion as far as the attendance goes.
What do you think, Dan?
I think the COVID's had a lot to do with it, and now that apparently Japan's taken this huge turn that I wasn't even aware of until a couple of days ago. Last I heard about Japan was like they were all resistant to get the vaccine, and there's a lot of problems. And now it's like a 180. Like almost everybody over there is vaccinated. Hopefully they'll be opening up their borders soon, so they can start bringing in, so Will Ospreay can travel back and forth a lot easier, Jay White, and then bring in some of these people from like AEW or Impact, or have some people come over there for some of these shows. I think that will bring a lot more fans in. I hopefully I don't know if maybe like this this mid G1, hopefully like the fans will come back after this. Hopefully Evil didn't just it didn't ruin the fans at home like he was getting ready to ruin all the New Japan World subscriptions. I hope the fans aren't harboring resentment about that turn. But yeah, it makes a big difference. I know it makes a big difference for me when I'm watching these shows and it's clap crowds and you see a bunch of empty seats in the back. It's just kind of like, it's tough to watch sometimes, especially when you go back in the archives in New Japan World and you watch some of these old shows with just packed houses with molten hot crowds. And then you turn on today's G1 and it's like, okay.
Yeah, Jay, I am curious what has kept you sticking around, because I know a lot of people in our circle have kind of dropped New Japan and really don't watch, but you've kind of been sticking through and watching all the shows. What's been like the key thing that's kind of kept you hooked in?
It's the main guys. Like, I still love watching Shingo wrestle. I still love watching Tomohiro Ishii beat the shit out of people, right? It's like that doesn't get old to me. This might be a weird thing too, but another thing is I wake up really early in the morning, and a lot of these shows are on live when I wake up. Like, and it's quiet at my house, and I can just turn on a show and watch it, while I'm like hanging out, eating my breakfast and drinking coffee, getting ready for work or whatever. So that's kind of weird for me, but like, I still
what a
enjoy
life.
it, right?
This dude's got it made.
No, I still enjoy it. Listen, this is going to be fanboyish, but like, you guys keep me involved. Like, I listen to your show every week. You guys still keep the passion going, and that it affects me, because when you guys are passionate about the project, I'm passionate about the project. I mean, there's stuff that I'm not thrilled about right now with it, but I mean, look at the alternatives in some of the other companies, right? I've completely stopped watching certain large American promotions, basically. So they're not nearly, falling off like some of those have. So I still enjoy watching it.
Yeah, and Josh, I thought you made a good point to P-San's question. You look at this, it's A block final card, and it's just like, yeah, it's not like you could have thrown this on a Corkin Hall. Maybe you could have, sold out Corkin with this card, but the A block final night, like, you expect a little bit more heat coming into this, and so
this would have been like a perfectly fine Hino Kuni.
Exactly. Or New Japan Road.
Yeah, just Road. No, what's the other one that happens around Hino Kuni that's also weird? Like on that, they got weird ones on that. Like one stretch of the year, that's like, why do you have these weird D-level like shows out of nowhere?
Yeah, there's another one, like Satsumi no Kuni.
Yeah. Satsumi no Kuni. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just think once they're able to get the restrictions lifted up, and also we're getting ready to build towards Wrestle Kingdom season. Also, I think we got World Tag League and Best Super Juniors. I don't think those shows are probably going to be a huge draw, with both of those being single block tournaments, and who knows who's going to be in that freaking both of those tournaments. But I think once we get into that build Wrestle Kingdom season, and I mean right now we have Ibushi who's beating Shingo, we got Sabre who's beating Shingo, and Okada's probably going to beat win the block. You have three top guys for title challengers right there. I think they can build some stuff compelling for Wrestle Kingdom season.
So that's going to do it for coverage of that night. So A block, the point totals and records include forfeit wins. So Kota Ibushi is the winner of the A block at 14 points. And then underneath him, Shingo Takagi, 13 points. Kenta with 12. Zack Sabre Jr. with 12. Toru Yano with 10. Tomohiro Ishii with 10 points. Great-O-Khan with 8 points in his first G1. Tangaloa 6 points in his first G1. Yujiro Takahashi with 5 points. And then the loser of all losers, Tetsuya Naito, 0 points, 0 wins, 9 straight losses, back to back to back. They're all in the record books. He withdrew because of a knee injury, quote unquote, forfeited 8 of his matches. So Naito down bad, LIJ down bad.
Tranquilo in the mud.
In the bin.
It's a grift.
Throw him in the bin and sing doo-wop around him.
So the schedule coming up, G1 Climax 31 Night 18, that's Wednesday morning. That's coming up probably after this, just after this show drops. We have the B block finals. Everyone is eliminated except for the 2 gentlemen in the main event. But real quickly, the card, Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi take on Oiwa and Fujita, tag team action. We got Tanahashi against Tai Chi, Goto against Tama Tonga, Yoshihashi against Chase Owens. That might be good, actually.
That could be good.
I got a sneaking feeling that those guys are gonna like lay it all out on the line because it's like the B block final. In the semi-main event, Sonata versus Evil, and then the main event, to determine the B block winner, you've got Kazuchika Okada sitting at 14 points, taking on Jeff Cobb, who has 16 points. The winner of that match will be the B block winner.
And then that winner will face Kota Ibushi on Thursday morning at 5 a.m. So guys, who we got? Who you think's taking the B block? Is it going to be Okada or Jeff Cobb?
Well, the interesting thing too, just talking about the scenario. So if Okada beats Cobb, they're tied at points. He wins the tiebreaker. He wins the block. If Cobb wins, obviously Cobb wins the block. But in any other circumstance that would result in any sort of draw, like a time limit draw, a double count out, no decision, anything like that, Jeff Cobb automatically wins that tiebreaker. And that's what makes this situation unique, is that if they do go 30 minutes, Cobb wins automatically, even if he doesn't beat Okada.
Yeah.
So what's to stop Jeff Cobb from dragging Okada out of the ring and just like laying him out and sitting on him for the count out? Like right as soon as the match starts.
Well, a couple things. A, hopefully Okada's ring awareness and his, generalship, and his will to fight and survive. Also,
His
Jeff
fighting
Cobb,
spirit.
his fighting spirit. The other thing is maybe Cobb's pride and hubris, potentially. And then finally, the booker who decides this sort of shit. I don't know if you know this, Dan, but wrestling, it's a work.
You telling me this now?
Nothing infuriates people more than like when you're discussing something, then you explain to them that wrestling's not real. They get really pissed.
No, I'm hoping it goes like close to 30 minutes, and they tease the time limit draw, and then
that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah, and we've seen the time limit draw teased out a lot, especially towards the beginning of the tournament with a lot of the big guys in the tournament, especially we saw Okada Tanahashi. So they've been teasing the draw, and also that's going to come into play here for this matchup.
I'm not saying they will do this, but it's not really outside the realm of possibilities that they do go to the draw and maybe do your classic WCW television title match, finish where Okada's hitting him with that Rainmaker and he covers him a little too late and 1, 2, and the match ends. And Okada had that visual victory, but Cobb wins the block undefeated, and now they got to run it back sometime between now and Wrestle Kingdom. That is a possibility.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking forward to 15 minutes of the money clip.
I thought he kind of went away from that. Has he been utilizing it too much in this tournament? Still?
He hasn't been like spamming it like he used to, but he still pulls it out every once in a while.
I'm expecting Okada and Cobb to go out there and have a great close to 30-minute match. Obviously, I think with Jeff Cobb, not that he can't go 30 minutes, obviously can, but the longer the match goes, I think the more it is in favor of Okada, just in terms of stats and, storyline. And I hope Okada gets him, puts him away with, just maybe a minute, maybe a little bit less than that left to go, and, picks up his G1 win, and we're off to the races.
Dan, who are you going with?
Oh, I think Okada's going to win. Just looked like, 45 seconds left, 30 seconds left. I think it's going to be a great match. I make my jokes about trash, but I think it's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably wake up early and watch it tomorrow.
I'm also going to go with Okada getting the win, pretty much for a lot of the reasons we said earlier. I think him and Ibushi is going to be a great drawing main event with a 1 day notice. I think it's going to be a great matchup, and so yeah.
Part of my feeling about all this too is that, ultimately, knowing that Ibushi is the guy that they're going to be standing across, on paper it makes a lot of sense to do Ibushi and Okada as a G1 final. They've never done that as a G1 final, but they've wrestled each other in big Wrestle Kingdom matches and other, like match stage matches. So it's not like they're burning a match that they haven't done before, which is smart. But on the flip side of it, if it does end up being Cobb against Ibushi, I think Cobb has to win. And that would be only the second Gaijin to have ever done it. And if that were to happen, he'd be the only person in history to do it undefeated. So fuck you, Kenny, And there's a part of me that's like, what if there is like that saltiness? Like what if they've turned the corner on Jeff Cobb and they really like want to go that way? Also, what kind of implications would that have for, say, Will Ospreay and the health of the United Empire? So there's the chaos lover in me that kind of wants them to go that way, just because I'm like, I have no clue what happens if that's the way they go. And for everyone complaining about doing fresh new things, that would be super new, super fresh. But I think they are going with Okada, honestly.
Yeah, that United Empire, wrinkle's a great thing you brought up. Especially we're seeing the Empire grow. We have Aussie Open and TJP as official members now. You could have Cobb, if he wins, break off and go singles.
Or who knows? There's a lot of things you could do there. Yeah.
Just have him plow through Shingo, and then when Ospreay and Cobb meet to unify their titles, the finger poke of doom 2 happens.
But what about night 3? That's the thing. Like, booking this out doesn't make sense. We're like, what's going to happen on that third night? Like, no one knows. It's fake. It's not even a real Wrestle Kingdom. It's not even in the dome.
And when is New Year's Dash? Is it in the middle of Wrestle Kingdom, or is it after?
We don't even know if they're even doing it, but if they are, it's going to be in the middle, I would assume.
That's weird.
As of right now, it's not booked, but if one does get announced, then some exciting things could be happening.
So it sounds like we are all expecting Okada to win this shit.
Yeah.
All right. Rambo and Slim Pig asked a couple questions, and I'll kind of leave most of it to you guys because you guys watched all this. So whose stock has risen the most during the G1? I would argue ZSJ has reached a new level, as has Cobb. Ibushi and Okada have heated back up. Owens has jumped up the hierarchy also. Which were the most unexpected?
Let you go first, Dan.
So, like we've talked, ad nauseum about ZSJ and Cobb getting elevated in this tournament. Owens, yeah, he got more wins. I'm not a huge fan of his, but he impressed me more than from what I've seen from him before. So I guess you could say he's kind of one that has jumped up. Great Ocon with his 8 points. I feel like he kind of got a showcase in this too. Like we talked about, there's people that don't like him, but I think he is coming around, and he's not there yet, like we said, but eventually he will be. Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the same guys that you mentioned. Obviously, I think Zack Sabre Jr. Obviously, it might be kind of weird to say Sabre just because he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. When you look at his slotting in New Japan, these past couple of years, he's been slotting in that dangerous Techers, tag position. So this is kind of a re-elevation of Sabre. So I thought his stock raised. Cobb, obviously, going undefeated. And Cobb, again, a guy who a couple of years ago was a never guy, struggling to beat Hiroki Goto, is now undefeated in the block and could potentially win the block and win the tournament. So his stock definitely has rised. I think some of the lower guys like Chase Owens and Tama Tonga, I think, he mentioned who was unexpected. For me, Tama Tonga, if we based off what we saw in G1 in 2018, where Tama Tonga was, having horrible matches and the whole, Bullet Club Civil War stuff was happening, like I was not expecting much out of Tama Tonga. And I thought he had a really good tournament. Obviously, none of his matches were like match of the year contenders, but he had a lot of really good 3.5 to maybe 4-star matches. And he wrestled straight, and he was a red hot, fiery babyface in the majority of his matches, and doing a lot of his invasion spots, and then the high flying and the gun stuns out of nowhere. I thought he looked really good in the tournament. I think his stock rise for me at least. Great Ocon. I thought Ocon did great as well with those great 3 main events that he had towards the end, like you mentioned. His stock definitely rised, and yeah, I think that's probably about it.
Well, conversely, he asked, who's fallen the most during the G1? Is there anyone who is not burned out on Yano's act at this point? Has anyone else lost a notch for you?
Unfortunately, Tai Chi. I feel like he kind of got the shitty end of the stick in this tournament. I've really enjoyed watching his matches over the past couple of years, and it seems like this year was kind of a speed bump in any kind of push for him, unfortunately. Sonata has fallen down for me. I used to enjoy his stuff, but like we talk about it, it's mid.
I'll throw one out there just because Goto, slow descent of of Goto.
Yeah, he's almost into a New Japan dad territory, I think. So.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on Sonata. I mean, we've always kind of already said, like, Sonata kind of wrestles to the level of the guy he's in there with. When you think, he was the G1 finalist last year, and now he's, eliminated before even the last few nights and not having any standout matches. Like, his best match, I think, was the Okada and Tanahashi matches, and he's against the two top guys. Like, so yeah, definitely lowered there for me. Yano, I'm over it. I after like night one, I was done.
Yeah, Yano, like he's okay in like small doses every once in a while, but every other night in the G1, especially in this tournament when we're getting Bullet Club shenanigans left and right, it's like there's just too many matches with bullshit going on. And so they really stand out, and yeah, it gets old really quick.
Yeah, and then one last guy, I would say Kenta. Obviously, he was in the mix towards the end, but I was a little disappointed just from a match quality. You look back at his 2019 G1 compared to this G1, and was not at the same level.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were sort of impressed with a couple of his outings, but mostly the fact that he kept winning. So they sort of saw that as like a elevation of sorts, and it may have been. But when you compare the match quality that he had year over year, G1 to G1, it's not quite what it was last year, even, especially compared to his first year.
Right.
Last question he asked, he said, if Gato asked you to book a 10-man G1 block using competitors from Strong, who would make the cut?
All right, how do we want to do this? We also all want to kind of throw names in together.
Well, I don't think it's that hard. I mean, I think you got to throw it for me. I'm going to say Suzuki because he's here. He's on Strong.
John Moxley.
John Moxley's got to be in it.
Lance.
Jay White. Yeah, fuck it.
Osprey.
Dirty Daddy, Chris Dickinson. Throw him in there.
Chris Dickinson.
Filthy Tom.
Ishii's been over here.
No.
He's already in it.
He's not here.
Filthy Tom.
Filthy Tom Lawler, of course. So, now we're down to like the final three. Like, who's making that cut?
Brody King.
I was thinking Brody. What do you?
Alex Coughlin.
Alex Coughlin? You want to throw him in
Coughlin,
there?
yes.
I don't know, man. There's some other dudes. I think. What about Leo Rush?
The junior?
If I was going to throw one of the guys in there, I would. For me, I would throw like Clark Connors or.
What about Fredericks? Yeah.
I'd throw Fredericks in first, so that's 9. So we got one last spot. I mean, so Daniel Garcia, right?
What about,
I don't know.
What about Mr. Dode's off, man? Suntan Superman, Fred Rosser, Block the Hate.
You know what? Juice should probably get in there.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah, I know.
What about El Fantasmo?
Yeah, we could throw Fantasmo in there. G1 superstar El Fantasmo. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Whatever. It doesn't go. Treating this man's question like it's a game.
Well, that just shows that Strong has a really strong roster, and they've got a lot of awesome guys. Like when Strong first started, I was like, I don't know about this. There's only like a couple of guys that might be worth watching, and now it's like they just have a plethora of all these badasses, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
How about we throw in Fred Yehi just because?
Oh yeah. I mean, and Josh Alexander has been showing up, so.
Dude, Josh Alexander would be awesome in that.
Did you say Will Ospreay?
Yeah.
How about we expand this thing out to a full 20-man, 2-block?
Do the G1 of USA.
G1 of USA. Why is everything of USA with them? MJ Does PR asked, who's got the higher ceiling after this tourney? ZSJ, Tai Chi, or Jeff Cobb? Well, Khan's had some good performances in main events. Would you put him in the same block of credible world title challengers or on the same level as Goto, Yoshihashi?
I think the highest ceiling is probably going to be Jeff Cobb. I mean, going undefeated, especially if he wins the tournament undefeated, even if not, even with just one loss, like that's just, like you mentioned, Josh, like history has never happened before. And
Well, it's just the role. They're very clearly slotting him in that powerhouse monster Gaijin role, which, has been lacking recently since, like, say, Lance Archer left the company and, Michael Elgin, guys like that. So, yeah, I think I think just by the very nature of what that role entails and the upside of it, it's a lot higher than, like, say, where you might slot a ZSJ or a Taiji.
yeah, and then as far as Okan, I think that I wouldn't put him on Goto or Yoshihashi's level, but he's not a world title challenger quite yet. I think he's somewhere in the middle for right now.
Mid.
I was going to ask what Dan's opinion was, but he gave it to us.
No, I don't think he's mid. I like him a lot. I don't know if he's up to, the Goto Yoshihashi level yet, but he will surpass them, I think, eventually.
Well, nice. Now, Dan, you were talking about the strong roster of New Japan Strong. We're going to talk now about Autumn Attack Night 2. I know you did check this show out this weekend, Dan. So let's talk about this real quick. So we had the Alex Coughlin Challenge Series continuing here. The Dirty Daddy, Chris Dickinson, answered the call this week, defeated Alex Coughlin 13 minutes and 3 seconds. What do you think about this one, Dan?
This was a nice little smack the shit out of each other match. I really liked it a lot, man. This is big men slapping meat. It was fun.
That's what's in my search engine.
Yeah, I really enjoy this match. Obviously, Chris Dickinson's like the perfect guy for New Japan Strong, and coming out here of Coughlin, yeah, very hard hitting, tons of strikes. But yeah, obviously the result's kind of obvious. Coughlin's been losing all these things, but yeah, Dickinson puts him away. But a good way to open the show. Then following that, the Mega Coaches reunited. Rocky Romero and Ryusuke Taguchi, they defeated the West Coast Wrecking Crew of Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs at 13 minutes and 41 seconds.
It was a fun little match. A lot of hip attacks, the typical Mega Coaches stuff. And then the wily veterans snuck out the win in the end. So, just basic good wrestling match.
Yeah, part of me was kind of surprised. You have two juniors against a heavyweight tag team, and the junior team won. Obviously, Rocky and Taguchi are, main roster, quote-unquote, New Japan guys and are, have more experience. But I was still a little surprised to see that they ended up with the win. But I guess, Taguchi's only in town for a little bit. You got to give him some wins. So, yeah.
Holds on top, man.
Yeah.
Every time.
Then the semi-main event, multi-man tag here. Clark Connors, Juice Robinson, Leo Rush, and TJP. They defeat the Bullet Club team of Chris Bay, ELP, Hikuleo, and Taiji Shimori by disqualification, 11 minutes and 7 seconds. So they're building to a bull rope match between Juice and Hikuleo for next week. And Juice came out with the bull rope, and Hikuleo eventually grabbed it and used it on Juice towards the end there, calling the DQ. We don't see a lot of DQs in New Japan, but we got one here on Strong. What do you think about this, Dan?
It was okay. I wasn't really thrilled with this. This was by far the weakest match on the show for me.
Yeah, especially after 11 minutes and to go to the DQ finish, there's plenty of guys on both sides that they could have beaten if they didn't want to beat Hikuleo or Juice going into the bull rope match. But
right,
it is what it is. Bull Club stood tall and throw their two sweets up. Which then led us to the main event of this night. We had Will Ospreay defeating Carl Fredericks 18 minutes and 8 seconds.
So this was a fun match. I don't think this wasn't Will Ospreay working at top tier Will levels, but he was still pretty well into it, and it just showed me that Carl can hang with him. Right. It was really a showcase for Carl Fredericks, and I enjoyed the match. I especially liked it when Will Ospreay won, faked out the, good job, handshake or whatever there at the end and then beat the shit out of him. I'm always a sucker for heels doing that.
Yeah, I thought this was awesome match. Honestly, I think this is probably Carl Fredericks' best New Japan match. Like you mentioned, it was kind of cool to see him hanging in there with Ospreay, wrestling an Ospreay style matchup. Very hard hitting. There's a lot of callbacks to Shibata, Ospreay teasing the Shibata stuff to Fredericks, and then Fredericks following up and doing the drop kick and stuff like that. Ospreay, a lot of focus on the head with the rolling elbows. We got the burning shooting star over the ropes there onto Fredericks. And, yeah, just a good, hard-hitting back and forth. There's a great Fredericks hit the Manifest Destiny, but Ospreay rolled out to the ring. So almost had Ospreay beat, but he couldn't cover him. And just, yeah, there were so many great near falls. And then the hidden blade at the end knocked Frederick's head off, put him away. 1, 2, 3. And also, interesting thing, before the match, Ospreay bullied Jeremy Marcus to lift up the quote-unquote real world title. So apparently this was a IWGP world title match on Strong. And then we had an angle post-match. Ospreay continued to beat down, like you mentioned, Fredericks, and then Connors came out, and TJP. And, Ospreay's like, it seems like I'm outnumbered here. I guess it's time to introduce my new member of the United Empire. And then on the screen, it flashes TJP. And then he jumped Clark Connors, laid him out, and it's now official. TJP is a part of the United Empire.
I mean, is there any more perfect member for United Empire? A team of just smug assholes?
I mean, my whole thing is like, I want to like clown on those guys for being stupid or whatever, but it's their own fault. I mean, anyone who chills with TJP in kayfabe or shoot had to know that something like this could have definitely happened. I mean, they did it to themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think they were actually trying to hang with TJP. I think he was just kind of there. Because remember that one?
No, that's their boys. They're all dojo boys. You know what I'm saying?
No, remember that one tag match, and you were like, "Yeah, I don't think Clark really wanted to team with him." Like, I think it was just a book that way, and he was like, "Damn."
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Earlier this year they were, talking about Proud Boys and the allusions to the United Empire. I don't know if TJP was the best guy to throw in there.
Just in enhancing the image that a lot of people already had about him.
You need to throw in A-double next. If they want to get some real heat, let's bring in Alberto. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God. Well, this coming up Saturday, we have night 3 of Autumn Attack. Show open up with another multi-man tag. We'll have David Finley, Freddie Ahai, Wheeler Utah, Will Allday, and Brogan Finley taking on.
I don't even know who 2 of those guys are.
They'll be taking on Taguchi, Ren Narita, Alex Coughlin, Kevin Knight in the DKC. Then we'll have the Bullet Club team of ELP and Chris Bay taking on the Dirty Birds of Robbie Eagles and Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson. Then the semi-main event, Will Ospreay, and obviously it's going to be his mystery partner. It's going to be TJP taking on Carl Fredericks and Clark Connors. And then the main event, the bull rope match between Juice Robinson and Hikuleo.
Loser leaves town.
Overall, I've really been enjoying the Texas shows. The one downfall is just the production value.
What about the attendance?
Well, that's the one thing. Because the attendance was light, they kind of darkened the crowd. And so the whole building's pretty much dark, except the light's pretty much just in the ring. But it's kind of affecting the lighting for the whole thing. And so the production-wise, it's not the best-looking production. And like the audio, like on the entrance music, and the ring announcer has been super low as well.
So they got that AEW ring entrance music.
Yeah,
effect.
It's like super low. Dan, what were your thoughts on the commentary with Kozlov and Aiden English?
To be honest, it's quite a step down from Kevin Kelly doing the G1. Put it that way. Sometimes it's pretty rough to listen to. Those guys try, but it sounds like a million other like independent wrestling shows with commentary that I've watched. They're really strong. Kozlov's rough, man. I know he's trying, but he is rough. Like at the end when TJP ran out and attacked Clark Connors, he called Clark Connors Carl Fredericks, and I'm just like, are you watching the same show I am? Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, Kozlov definitely needs Kevin Kelly guiding him. Yeah, in English, I mean, good voice, and he's fine. He obviously has done his research, like he knows stuff, but yeah, it's just not the same.
I think Aiden English, or was it Matt Morris as he goes by over here? I think he would be better with a separate partner. How about that? I think he feels like he has to do a lot of the heavy lifting, which puts him in some uncomfortable situations when he's announcing.
I don't know why they don't give Morrow a call.
That would be dope. Yeah.
Give Morrow a call. Call Josh Barnett. Let's get the old Axis team back together. You know.
Well, they probably still got heat with Barnett after the whole Jay White incident.
Well, you know, Jay White shouldn't be fucking around. You know. He fucked around, found out. You know. We got some news items here. So, Battle in the Valley. That's the big show coming up on November 13th. It's going to hit Fight live in English from the San Jose Civic Civic Center. Card to be broadcast live on Fight TV at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Live English commentary is a Fight Live exclusive. English commentary will be available on demand after the event. So that's one. We're not going to be able to make it out for that show, but I'm like kind of hesitant because I'm like, I want to hear it in English, but there were so many complaints about Fight TV last time.
Who's doing the commentary on these?
Kevin Kelly, Aid English, and Kozlov.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know.
You had me there for a second. You guys, they had me there till the end.
Well, the thing too, this is the same night as Full Gear, so
right.
I'm sure a lot of people are probably gonna be watching this the next day. So just watch it on demand.
I'm planning to like power through, do Full Gear and Battle in the Valley same day.
So is it going to be on New Japan World with Japanese commentary like the next day or that night?
So, right?
It'll be live in Japanese that night.
Maybe I just do that.
Yeah,
I think I don't mind watching these shows in Japanese commentary.
I don't either. The thing is, I'd be willing to pay for it. It's just Fight TV has such a bad track record. Like, we've done several Fight TV shows, and I've never watched a New Japan Fight TV live show that didn't have issues.
Right.
So we'll see. In other news, TJP is going to be making his way to Mexico via CMLL through New Japan Pro Wrestling. So that's pretty interesting there. And then El Phantasmo earned his way to an X Division Championship match next week at Impact's Bound for Glory event when he defeated Rohit Raju and Willie Mack in a wild three-way match this past Thursday. So, yeah, ELP making strides in Impact. I'm glad our Impact dedicated podcast on this network is covering this.
Man, we can't keep him.
He's sidelined.
So that's going to take us to a couple questions here and then the match of the week, and then we're going to get out of here. So first question, Raising Falcons asked, as you like Chaos Mole questions, then here's another. Who would you have booked to have been the Chaos Mole? Wow, we haven't discussed the Mole and Chaos in a long time.
Well, yeah, we got a question last week. Somebody was bringing up like they thought like maybe Chucky T could have potentially have been the Mole and Chaos since he was going crazy at the end of the World Tag League that year.
So this predates when I started watching New Japan. So I'm not really sure what's going on with the Mole. Is it just like Jay White just offhandedly mentioned there's a Mole in Chaos and people just ran with it on the internet or something?
Well, we don't know because they mentioned it a lot, but then it got dropped. So it's hard to tell if it was just like what you mentioned or if it was an actual storyline that was going to pay out. It was sort of in that in-between gray area where it's hard to tell if it was to be taken serious or not.
But it was mentioned more than once by Jay White or whoever.
It was mentioned like for quite a while, multiple times. But, you know, like everyone's shooting in the dark. Like Kevin Kelly brought up on commentary a lot, but like it's not like he knows what the fuck's going on either. So
yeah, we used to get like questions every week, like who's the Mole in Chaos? You guys, any thoughts on the Mole in Chaos? Like who's the Mole?
I do think that Chucky T could have potentially been the guy had that storyline been allowed to play out at that World Tag League.
Well, did they really need a Mole in Chaos? I mean, isn't Okada like a terrible leader anyway? Like that's like undermining it himself. Maybe he's the Mole, right?
That's a more modern interpretation. I guess we can move on. Dom Homie 101 asked, does New Japan depend too much on foreign talent with this whole COVID-19 situation? I feel that it exposes the fact that New Japan depends too much on foreign talent. I feel like the company needs to put focus on homegrown talent.
They definitely, I think, they are the Japanese promotion that uses probably the most Gaijin talent. When you look at like Noah or DDT or Dragon Gate, also I think New Japan uses the most Gaijin talent. I don't think they totally rely on them, and we still have the dojo system. We have, you know, Tsuji and Yamura out on excursion. Okan just came back. Shuto Amino's on excursion. We still have like the LA dojo guys that are going to be graduating and being integrated soon. So I do think that they focus in on homegrown talent, but also once you have an increased use of Gaijin, it definitely makes a difference when they can't come into the country.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I agree with this. I mean, is it conducive to have talent that lives abroad, you know, brought in constantly like this? In a certain sense, no, especially when there's a pandemic that prevents them from traveling. But then you look at New Japan from 1972 till now, and it's been an extremely fruitful and, you know, beneficial system that they've had in place. And you know, it's part of the culture there. The idea of bringing in stars from abroad has always been a money-making tool for them, and it's also helped grow the industry and the health of those performers who get to come over. And you know, it's an incredible resource that they have at their disposal. So I mean, I'd be remiss to say no, they're depending too much on foreign talent. It's like, you know, I don't know. I think it's fantastic what they do. You know, most giant Japanese professional wrestling companies have done this always. I wish we saw more, you know, companies exchanging talent and utilizing people from different countries, you know, internationally, especially the fact that this company has in the past 5 years become more of a worldwide product as opposed to just a domestic product. I mean, it's hard to kind of, I don't know, criticize them for having some of the best wrestlers in the world just because they happen to be from England, Canada, and America and Mexico, you know?
What do you think, Dan?
Well, I mean, it is a business, right? And how are you going to grow your business worldwide if you don't, you know, showcase people from around the world? You can't take a fully Japanese promotion and bring it over here and expect it to succeed, right? You got to have people from everywhere. I mean, that's why I started watching, is because, you know, I saw gifs of Kenny Omega doing stuff and other foreigners. I had no idea who a lot of these Japanese guys were, but I'd heard of the like AJ Styles or whoever, and that's what brought me in. And I'm sure that's brought a lot of other people that don't live in Japan to start watching it. I think it's just mostly, like Josh said, like a business decision. It's like how do you get the most money from the most people in the world, right? You bring in people from everywhere.
Yeah.
It's all about being money-tistic, guys. That's what it all boils down to for everything.
The next question, this is a fight question. He asked, why doesn't Larry Holmes get the respect that he should get? In my opinion, Larry Holmes is an all-time great, and it's a shame that he's underappreciated. So I know this is kind of my wheelhouse. Dan, I don't know. Nope. Okay. You know, the thing with Larry Holmes is Larry Holmes came between two of the greatest heavyweights of all time, but not just that, but two of the greatest sporting personalities and marketable stars in the history of boxing, and that would be Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. You know, and in between those two eras, you've got the dominance that was Larry Holmes, and you know, head to head, I think Larry Holmes is a fucking killer, and hell, for any heavyweight, any time in history, no matter who it is in his prime, including Ali, including Tyson, including Tyson Fury. Like the other night, I actually, funnily enough, was asked to give my ranking of the 5 greatest heavyweights of all time. And, you know, I had Ali number 1, Joe Louis number 2, Larry Holmes number 3, Foreman 4, and Lennox Lewis at 5. So, you know, in my opinion, I'm right there with you. I think Larry Holmes is one of the all-time greats, but, you know, in his old age, he did lose to Evander Holyfield. He did lose to Mike Tyson. You know, he had some of those big losses. He was never able to beat Michael Spinks. He lost the fight to Michael Spinks right before he was going to either tie or surpass Rocky Marciano's undefeated record. And I think that was kind of a detriment to him as well. And he always kind of carried a chip on his shoulder because he didn't get the same kind of love and respect that Muhammad Ali had. So, plus it was the 80s, and that era of heavyweight boxing is much lower than the 90s and the 70s and the 60s. And all those lost generation of heavyweights that were doing coke and, all that shit, your Tony Tubbs and your there's a bunch of guys. So it's not like he was in the midst of like the greatest era either. So that also plays a big part in it. But yeah, that's pretty much the deal. But make no mistakes about it. Larry Holmes is one of the greatest, and Larry Holmes could beat any fighter ever in the history of boxing, period.
Nice. Last
question he had for us: thoughts on the upcoming fight between Shakur Stevenson and Jamel Herring? In my opinion, Herring, I don't know. I feel like this fight will be the toughest fight in the young career of Stevenson due to the fact that they've been in the same training camp together from time to time. I think the rubber will meet the road, but I will be rooting for Stevenson in the audience. I can't wait to attend this fight. In my opinion, so far I've got no reason to doubt Shakur Stevenson. He really hasn't been battle tested, and a few weeks ago months ago I was kind of asked about Shakur Stevenson and my opinions, and I haven't been as up on boxing in the past few years as I have been in the past, so I was kind of even a little unaware of everything that he had already done. But he's fought a good collection of fighters, not world beaters, but the guy's 16-0 at this point, multiple time world champion and in multiple weight classes. He's proven himself to be the truth. I think he needs to fight some better guys. I think Jamel Herring probably is up there as like one of his toughest opponents. If it wasn't him, then I don't know. Probably Christopher Diaz. I'm assuming maybe Alberto Guevara. I don't know. But yeah, I think he'll beat Jamel Herring, and I'd like to see Shakur Stevenson move on to some bigger names, some bigger money fights, some tougher tests, because this kid's got the goods, but he just, from a management standpoint, hasn't really been placed in those types of fights where we get to see what he's truly made of against the best.
Nice. Well, now let's transition over to recommended match of the week. So last week, Chris Samsa recommended Kota Ibushi versus Tetsuya Naito from the 2013 G1 Climax, and I watched this before we recorded, and I thought this was a nice little banger, 14-minute match. It was kind of, it almost felt like a best of the Super Junior match, because Ibushi was out there flipping all over the place, and golden triangles. Did a Phoenix Splash for the win. Naito, only one knee's taped up, and so
young Naito.
Yeah, he's doing more, more flips, and he's doing more like high pace, offense. Obviously coming from the CMLL excursion, stuff like that. So yeah, I thought it was a really good matchup, and obviously just one of many great matches that these two guys would have. So Dan, it's your turn here to pick the recommended match of the week for us.
A lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
All right, so Josh, let me know if you've seen this one already. 1992 G1 Climax final.
Yeah, of course.
Masahiro Chono versus my boy Rick Rude for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, this is a great match. It really is.
Yeah, I'd watched it a long time ago, and then when you guys invited me on, I was like, let me pick something out that I know is awesome, but I haven't seen it in a while. I watched it again this week. Crowd is just like super hot for everything that Chono does, and they hate Rick Rude, which should be right. Chono does a few hip swivels in there to like taunt Rude. You got Medusa out there. I love this match. I think you're going to enjoy it, Jeremy.
Nice. Yeah, I have not watched this match, so yeah, looking forward to checking it out.
Now, Josh, do you know like the whole story behind this being for the NWA title? I'm assuming you do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to tell the listeners?
Yeah, so essentially what had happened was that when Jim Crockett Promotion was bought by by Turner Networks and WCW was formed, the NWA as a board and a body still existed. And prior to that, the NWA from about like mid 86 or like 87 up until from about 86 to 87, they were pretty much controlled primarily by Jim Crockett and Jim Crockett Promotions. And essentially the NWA belt was the de facto top belt of Jim Crockett Promotions. But once WCW bought them, they started kind of phasing out the NWA name, and they eventually awarded a WCW title, and that title was represented by the one big gold belt. And the NWA champion was also represented by the big gold belt. So it was kind of confusing to people because, Ric Flair for a period of time was both NWA and WCW champion simultaneously. He was recognized by the NWA board and WCW, the company. It's not unlike, to kind of explain to people, sort of like what the TNA situation was like in the mid 2000s when the TNA title was held by, or the NWA title was held by TNA, but the NWA as a board and a body still existed at that time. Kind of similar. And then eventually what ended up happening was Ric Flair left WCW as the champion, had a falling out with management, left, jumped ship to WWF. And when he left WCW, he lost his recognition as WCW champion, but he was still the NWA champion for an extended period of time until he actually showed up on WWF television with the belt. Once he did that, the NWA stripped him and he lost recognition as their champion. But when he went on TV and said, "I am the real world's champion," he really was actually the NWA champion. Like, it wasn't like he hadn't been champion all the time. He was still recognized as champ. Anyways, there was a vacancy and they decided to fill that vacancy. And obviously there's a partnership between the NWA and WCW. They held I believe a one night. I think the G1 that year was one night. If not, it was several night. But they held a single elimination G1 tournament in 1992, and it featured both talent from WCW as well as New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that was to crown the new NWA champion essentially.
Nice. So, different format of tournament here for the G1. NWA involved. Rick Rude, Chono. Should be some good stuff to check out here.
WCW.
Yeah.
There's some other good matches in that tournament too. I watched some of the other. I mean, listen to some of the names from that tournament. You got Arn Anderson versus Steve Austin in an opening round match. You got Keiji Muto versus Barry Windham. Scott Norton versus Bam Bam Bigelow. I mean, like classic names. If you like early '90s, like WCW wrestling, like these are your guys, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that has stood out to me from that tournament. I'm looking over the field here. I think the Kensuke Sasaki Rick Rude match was good if I recall, but I could be wrong on that. Keiji Muto and Masahiro Chono went 26 minutes in the semifinals, which that was a rematch of the final from the year before. Steve Austin versus Keiji Muto sounds interesting. Actually, Keiji Muto's entire run through the tournament a match with Barry Windham 10 minutes. That's probably pretty good too.
Nice.
Yeah, it looks like it took place over like 4 nights. It wasn't like a one night tournament.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, from August 6th to August 12th. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Definitely some gems to check out there.
But yeah, and this is one of the final matches that are on tape of Chono because in September of that same year he's gonna defend the title against Steve Austin pre-Stone Cold, and Steve Austin actually breaks Masahiro Chono's neck using a sitting version of the Tombstone Piledriver. Sound familiar?
Mm.
And after that period, Chono's just never the same kind of performer. I mean, he still has a long, lengthy, successful career, but the type of wrestler he was before the neck injury and the type of wrestler he becomes afterwards is vastly different. And this is one of the last major matches on tape that kind of showcases his talents, very similar to how Steve Austin was pre and post neck injury from the exact same spot.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that.
Yep. The more you know.
Well, Dan, thanks so much. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to do the same thing you're doing.
You can both thank me. That's fine.
Acknowledge Dan.
Oh, yeah. Dan creates GIFs and stuff like that. Sometimes he made a acknowledge me meme for Matt Seidel. And like someone else took it and posted it and got like all this love. Bro, you got to like put watermarks or something on your shit.
I probably will going forward. I don't care about the likes, man. I mostly did it for the group chat, and you guys liked it. So,
well, the funny thing is, the Sai Dojo, like I'm still in their chat, and I shared that, and like Matt doesn't pay attention to shit, so like I shared it, people saw it, whatever. They didn't laugh or react to it because they suck, and then and then Matt, like the next day, and literally there's been no activity between me sharing it and anything else. And then the next day, this morning, Matt shares it. And I'm like, what are you doing, bro? It's right there. I shared it.
You don't be reading anything anybody else writes in the chat?
Yeah, Matt doesn't read anything anybody else writes.
Reading is your friend.
And then I saw he shared it on his story, and he was like, I enjoy this. And I was like, I told him, I was like, yeah, my buddy Dan made that. And he's like, tell Dan I said thank you.
Dan getting put over by Matt Seidel out here.
All right, man. You got to honor the new demo god.
Yeah, well, you know how wrestlers are. As long as you worship them and, give them all the props, mark out for them, and pay to take pictures with them and pay to
acknowledge them, right?
Just acknowledge them, with your time, money, and efforts. Then
mostly money.
Yeah, mostly money, but
Dan, you want to plug your Twitter and anything else?
I mean, if you guys want to follow me, you can.
Dan's got good ratings, takes, and opinions.
Yeah.
I make memes occasionally. I dunk on politicians occasionally, but like I don't really have anything to promote. I just make guest spots every once in a while. Hopefully I entertained some of your listeners tonight, or hopefully they're not going to have pitchforks on Reddit saying, who was that asshole? Like, don't ever have him back.
Dan's last name is Coffin, and it's fitting because he is the ghoul of Social Suplex. He is the lover of GCW and all things deathmatch.
I don't know how I got this name. I just like a few light food gifts. All of a sudden, I'm just the gore master. You share one gif of a guy getting stuck with hypodermic needles, and you're branded for life. I don't get it.
I don't know, man. You be ordering them GCW shows.
You order GCW shows, bro. If you pay for GCW shows, you're a ghoul.
Nah, I just like entertaining wrestling. I like supporting one of the hottest promotions in the country.
I can't stand GCW.
They're fun, man. I enjoy them.
I don't like fun. I like blood sport where it's just people beating the shit out of each other.
Sans light tubes. See, we're just two. We're very similar. You just don't like light tubes. I like light tubes. It's fine. Now my Twitter is at Coffin_Dan. I think. If you go on to social suplex, they'll show my Twitter at some point, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we're about
That's all I got.
We're about to hand you over the keys so you can just post memes on the account all day.
Kid, you want a job? You can be our social media manager.
What's that pay?
We'll talk about that off air.
A fraction of what we earn here on this show.
All those Red Circle donations rolling in.
Yeah.
Hey guys, send us some money on Red Circle, please.
Well, that's gonna wrap things up for this week. Next week we'll be back to review the G1 Climax 31 finals. So if you
I have watched it or no? What's the over/under?
That's a big mystery.
This G1 was a wash for me. Bro, this is the first G1 since I'm sure I'll see some of it between now and then, but literally since 2013. since like G1s have become pretty accessible, that I've just like not watched it. And most of the time I either watch the entire thing or I cherry pick the biggest and best matches, and I haven't even done that really. I started to watch Ishii and Shingo and it was good and I couldn't focus. I turned it off. So I'm going to do some catching up here shortly. We'll be back with the passion and, watching everything. But yeah, this has been weird, man. This G1's a wash for me. I didn't even watch it.
It's a great time to jump back in. You got Tag League starting up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have a great Tag League tour, Best Super Juniors. Yeah.
It's been nice. I might just watch what I want to watch from now on. I'm going to come on the show and talk about like 85 Memphis. I don't even know if there's tape from like 81 Memphis. That's more, appropriate.
Keeping it Memphis style.
Yeah.
Well, next week we'll be back to review the G1 finals. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media. On Twitter, the show is at KI Strong Style. The network is at Social Suplex. You can follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we are facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also, you can find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we are at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just keeping it strong style. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out our YouTube channel, Social Suplex Podcast Network. And check out all the other shows that we have here on the network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences Podcast with Caleb and Maserati. 8-Bit Suplex with Josh, number 2. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. And The Great Match Generator with Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.
If you've got a passion for pumpkin, you've got to get to Dunkin' and pick these up. Our new Pumpkin Cream Cold Brew. Smooth, bold cold brew topped with velvety pumpkin cream cold foam. And our delicious pumpkin spice signature latte. Rich espresso topped with whipped cream, caramel drizzle, and cinnamon sugar. And our perfectly pumpkin donuts, munchkins treats, pumpkin muffins, and more. That's how we pumpkin at Dunkin'. Pick your pumpkin at Dunkin', like our new Pumpkin Cream Cold Brew, pumpkin spice signature latte, and our perfectly pumpkin treats. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.